All right, guys, what is up? Boom, baby, we're live. All right, so you guys have been asking me for months now to put a video out on the Great Reset and everything tied around that little catchphrase. And I'm not a geopolitical commentator, but I do have a very good bullshit detector. I've managed to hone it over the last decade because I had to. You know, life throws you curveballs. You don't lose, you learn. Yeah. Do me a solid, guys. If you are watching this elsewhere on the interwebs, come on over to YouTube. And when you get there, hit the like button. This helps me out with the algorithms. Let me just drop the link here for you. And take the poll, actually, that I dropped over in the live chat of YouTube. Just want to see where that ends up in a little bit. And I will likely be taking call-ins on today's show. About halfway through, 2/3 of the way through, just to get some opinions and feedback from you guys, because I always like chopping it up, but it's got to be on topic, okay? Let's put YT over there because our role. Yeah. Tommy says you'll own nothing and be happy. By the way, that catchphrase, I heard a version of that. I think it was probably 2009 or 10. It was at a conference I was at. My buddy Jason was, I think he's still running it. He had to take a break because of the pandemic, but called Mastermind Talks, mostly tech guys, Silicon Valley guys, and online entrepreneurs. And they used this catchphrase back then, which was, in the future, you'll own nothing but have access to everything. And I thought that was interesting at the time, somewhat appealing to some people. You know, I could see how that might be interesting. Like, you don't actually have to own anything, but you'll have access to everything. And the argument that was made was like, well, you won't need to own a car if you need to go anywhere, because this is when Uber was just ramping up. You'll just go on an app on your phone and they'll come and pick you up and drop you off, sort of thing. You want to travel somewhere, you don't need to own a house there. You can go to a website on Airbnb, not own it, just rent it, but you'll have access to everything. And, you know, the thought continued down the road with pretty much everything else. Now that's been modified by Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum to you will own nothing and be happy, which makes no sense to me. I don't know what moron would get excited about that, forfeiting everything and being happy about that. But then again, we live in strange times. The world is a bizarre place. And that reminds me, I got to write a little note here because I wanted to talk about the pacification of the West again, because I did make a video about 3 or 4 years ago. And I've got some solutions to all of this. Everybody wants, you know, to talk about the red meat. Let's talk about the red meat. I'm going to give you solutions. I'm going to talk about the red meat, but I'm going to give you solutions. Okay. Oh, man. How's everybody doing today? What do we got here with the poll? Guys, take the poll in the live chat of YouTube. 90, it's live, so it keeps tracking the votes. 95% say the Great Reset is a bad thing. I don't trust them. And 5% say it's a good thing. I trust these elites. I have a feeling that a handful of the people that clicked good thing, I trust these elites, are trolling me right now. There's always trolls in these shows. All right. Let me get my headphones because there's some stuff I wanted to go over with you. So a little bit of frame. I've watched a lot of content. I've read a lot of articles. I've had a ton of private conversations with very smart people over the last few months. And yeah, I have an opinion. It's something that's certainly, okay, something is certainly going on in the background. Whether it's a great reset or whether or not they're going to be successful with that, we'll get to that. But, you know, what have I talked to you guys about? You know, learning how to solve problems in your life, you know, your life, taking ownership, and unplugging from society's lies. Everybody likes a nice, comforting lie. It sells a lot better than the uncomfortable truth, right? My boy Jerry's in the chat. Rich, you constantly talk about men being able to solve problems. This skill is absolutely necessary. Yes, today we're going to be talking about solving a problem, and this is a problem. It's going to be a problem for some people, a lot of people, in fact. But we'll get into that in a little bit. So I've watched a bunch of stuff, and I was looking for something that I could kind of like have a little watch party with you guys on, sort of share with you. And a lot of it is like drone on for an hour and a half, 3 hours of just bullshit, and they don't really say anything, and it's really hard to carve out the sound bites. But JP he's a comic. He did a video in the last couple of weeks, which I think probably best summarizes with a comical twist, but with the actual clips that you want to see to get the facts that you want to hear. So I'm going to throw this up. I'm going to speed through it, and we'll get started. So the title of this is Klaus Schwab, the most dangerous man in the world. Let's add to stream here. If you guys can't hear me or hear the playback in the live chat, just let me know. And for those of you that are listening to the replay, because these podcasts, by the way, they're also in Spotify and Apple and all that sort of stuff, and SoundCloud. Just a fair warning, I've got this at 1.75 speed. So if you're already listening at 1.75 speed, it's going to sound pretty crazy. So slow down your playback speed right now, but listen up here.
Schwab writes the following. One of the greatest lessons of the past 5 centuries in Europe and America is this. Acute crisis contribute to boosting the power of the state. It's always been the case, and there is no reason why it should be different with a pandemic.
So and I've got to pause this from time to time just to, for YouTube issues, just to comment on it. But never let a good crisis go to waste is basically, the distillation of what he's getting out over there. It's been done that way throughout history. People that actually, let me summarize it this way. Human beings love being ruled. Okay, I've said this several times before. It's obvious to me now. I don't know if it's obvious to you guys yet. If you haven't noticed, since 2019 up until very recently, you've been lied to, and manufactured indignation, right? They said there was a pandemic coming and bad shit was going to happen, and we ought to all, toe the line and stand on dots and wear masks and stay inside and all that stuff. Last time I checked, when I looked up what the definition of pandemic was, it's when a crisis affects the world and people die. A lot of people die, in fact. And it had a survival rate like over 99.9%. So don't think it was a pandemic, but they tried. Anyway, let's continue playing this over here because I want to talk about the lies after I'm done through this clip.
Nobody ever elected Klaus Schwab to anything. This all just sounds like conspiracy, doesn't it? The World Economic Forum are good guys. Haven't you seen the headlines they pay for? Go green, right?
I want to talk about that go green thing because I wish I had some tinfoil in my house because I don't have any. I was looking for some so I could make a tinfoil hat whenever I needed to talk about something that might need to be understood from that perspective. The whole go green thing it's nice and it sells well, and it's got traction. There's no question that climate changes throughout history. I'm pretty sure human beings have an influence on that. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, when you dig up carbon from the ground and you combust it and you put it back in the atmosphere in large quantities, it's going to contribute some change out there. But what? I don't want to give away the full summary yet because I kind of want to deal with that towards the end when I deal with the solutions and what I think is happening with that flow. But yeah, the whole green movement, seems all nice, warm, and fuzzy because you want to save the baby seals and the polar bears and stuff like that. But there's some other stuff going on behind the scenes, which I'll get to in a little bit after we're done this clip here.
Right? That's probably right. They truly are good guys. Accordingly, you'll be excited to hear that the lineup of World Economic Forum speakers at their annual gathering of elites in Davos included such benevolent humanitarians like Xi Jinping, the leader of the Chinese Communist Party, who's currently committing genocide, Anthony Fauci, who's arguably currently involved in crimes against humanity, and Bill Gates, who's arguably currently involved in crimes against humanity. And
I saw this TED Talk that Bill Gates gave and a few other subsequent videos that were recommended to me after I watched it, where he was talking about a pandemic coming. This was around 2014 to 2016. And it would be a SARS-CoV type of pandemic, right? I don't think it's a coincidence that he was talking about it during that time. And I don't think it's a coincidence that he was so heavily involved in the narrative around what Fauci was talking about, and also the fact that, vaccinations were going to play a very big role and how we profited from it too as well. But let's keep going through this guy's clip here.
Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison, who's arguably currently involved in crimes against humanity. What a great lineup. But my favorite economic forum speaker of all time is this reptile, Klaus Schwab's top advisor, Dr. Yuval Noah Harari. Let's see what he has to say.
Data might enable...
Now, I don't think he mentions it here, but Noah Yuval Harari is the author of the book Sapiens, which I actually have pinned below on all my videos in my Amazon recommended reading list. He also wrote a follow-up book, which is called Homo Deus. Sapiens is basically a brief like history of humankind as we've operated as sapiens and how we've moved around the earth and what effect we've had on the earth and all that stuff. And I thought it was a relatively good book. You know, it essentially concluded that the reason why society is the way that it is today, and it mentioned liberalism a lot towards the end, and it also talked a lot about how gossip was essentially what made us unbeatable on the planet and made us a dominant species. But in his follow-up book, he also talks about AI and what sort of future he foresees the way liberalism is taking things. I didn't know this dude was a consultant to Klaus Schwab in the World Economic Forum until I started consuming a lot more of the content. What does it say at the top there? It says, Dr. Yuval Noah Harari is a transhumanist and top advisor to Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum. So let's hear what this guy has to say about stuff here.
Human elites to do something even more radical than just build digital dictatorships. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it.
Elites hacking organisms and re-engineering life itself? Well, he's not talking about doing that to people, is he?
Now, in the past...
He's not talking about doing that. Sure, he's not talking about doing it to lizards, is he? What does it say at the top there? Dr. Norville. Okay, so let's see.
Tyrants and governments wanted to do it, but nobody understood biology well enough, and nobody had enough computing power and data to hack millions of people. Neither the Gestapo.
Why does he keep talking about hacking people? Like, what is this guy on about now?
Nor the KGB could do it. But soon, at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people.
I guess he was talking about doing that to people. All people, to be specific.
And if indeed we succeed in hacking and engineering life, this will be not just the greatest...
So, if you guys have been asleep the last decade or so, information is the most valuable currency to elites. You know, people that run these large companies, large governments, or nonprofit organizations like World Economic Forum. By the way, that's a nonprofit organization, and they have a membership. And it wasn't clear what the membership was. On the low end, they mentioned $67,000. And on the high end, one piece of content that I came across, it's $627,000. So it's unclear what it costs to become a member and contribute and to influence the ideology, but it's not cheap for most people. I mean, $60,000, you're going to get a lot more people in. I suspect it's probably in the six-figure range. Let me just quickly have a quick look at the super chats here. Dude is Desi says, down with a great rest every second. I get an amen. Have you heard Elon Musk talking about robots making human labor a thing of the past and universal basic income for all the future? Yeah, that's where things are potentially going. Universal basic income is, for those that are unclear, is basically the state giving you, I'm just going to call it money, for the time being. It's a placeholder term, but, we'll call it money because you can buy shit with money. But the government's going to give you money where you'll be able to take care of your living expenses, and things like robots or AI will take care of most menial tasks. Like, when your grandfather or great grandfather came back from the war in World War II and started working in a factory, maybe screwing caps on toothpaste tubes or something like that, and you could have a family and a house and a white picket fence and all that sort of stuff, and you'd come home and your wife would kiss you on the cheek like Leave It to Beaver. Yeah, those days are certainly not going to be around anymore. Like with AI and with robots, a lot of things will be automated, and you'll end up basically just getting money from the state to take care of your basic needs. But it's unclear how much of the basic needs will be taken care of, and what things that they're going to automate with robotics and AI. But there's certainly a lot more people than what we need in the labor force right now. We don't, with robots and AI, you don't need much of a labor force, for being honest. I'll get to these super chats in a minute. Let me just keep playing this.
revolution in the history of humanity. This will be the greatest revolution in biology since the very beginning of life 4 billion years ago. For 4 billion years, nothing fundamental changed.
Not playing God, are you? Because that usually works out super well.
Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design, not the intelligent design of some God above the clouds.
Oh, you are playing God. Say more.
Playing God, eh? Some God above the clouds. I need to stand up for this. This is going to get intense. Okay, play.
Evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design, not the intelligent design of some God above the clouds, but our intelligent design and the intelligent.
This guy's not fond of religion, by the way. He talks mostly about stuff tied into the scientific community. Most guys in the scientific community are atheists, of course, but he's kind of opposed to that. And he talks a lot about like gays and stuff like that, and a lot of the content that I came across too.
Design of our clouds, the IBM cloud, the Microsoft cloud. These are the new driving forces of evolution.
Gosh, you wouldn't by chance have a plan in place on how to control people with your cloud technology, would you?
Mm-hmm.
And that plan isn't by chance already being implemented, is it?
Today, we have the technology to hack human beings on a massive scale.
How many times has this guy said this now? We can hack human beings on a massive scale. I mean, they're already tracking all of your data. You don't have privacy. We haven't had privacy for quite a long time. Basically, ever since we've had these handheld devices, Google Home speakers that you talk to, Alexas. If you think that they're not listening all the time, like if you think they're only listening when you go, "Hey Google" or "Hey Alexa," you're not awake, dude. Like you're plugged in. There's a reason why I don't have one of those fucking things in my house.
Oh, so you could implement it.
In this time of crisis, you have to follow science. It's often said that you should never allow a good crisis to go to waste.
Sounds familiar, and I guess you are implementing it already.
We've heard, I don't know, probably at least 4 or 5 like significant world leaders regurgitate that term. Justin Trudeau said it like dozens of times over the last year. It's
Didn't anyone bother telling this guy not to say any of this out loud on camera? It's a lot of evidence.
Surveillance, people could look back in 100 years and identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin.
So yes, look, there's guys that are going to argue, "Oh, they're not going to surveil you. We're just fucking..." Yeah, okay. What's happened? Like over the last couple of years, we've had concentration camps built in several countries. They force you to download an app here in Canada if you want to travel federally. So the provincial governments have been a little more on the side of the people, whereas the federal government's been more on the side of totalitarianism sort of thing. So if you want to travel, you have to have this app on your phone. Apparently, like even when the app's on your phone and you approach the border, you don't even have to show them, the barcode of the app. They just know that it's you because they're tracking your device. Surveillance has been going on for a long time. You don't have privacy. You have probably 90% less privacy than what most people think. Most people that are plugged in, they're sleepwalking through life, if I can put it that way.
My brain, my body, my life, does it belong to me or to some corporation or to the government or perhaps to the human collective?
This guy's revealing the whole plan. He's going to ruin it. The World Economic Forum, out for the good of humanity. You'll own nothing, not even your own DNA, if we have our way. Now for some additional fun facts about Klaus Schwab.
So I don't know if you guys recall, but the vaccine that was created was mRNA, and we've seen Dr. McCullough and a few others speak about the nature of it. They're already hacking human beings, right? In this case, the argument was, well, this will make the vaccine more effective and work faster and blah, blah, blah. But again, all I see is lies. All I'm doing is I'm just pointing to the fact we didn't have a global pandemic. There was no mass extinction. The lockdowns didn't work. The masks don't work. We know that the virus particle is smaller than what the mask can filter. The vaccination did not deliver as promised, stopping transmission and stopping you from getting it. Most people that get it, most people that transmit are vaccinated. So there's no logical reason why you should have a QR code on your phone if you want to travel out of a Canadian airport today. But most people do it. I mean, most people are under surveillance.
Schwab and the World Economic Forum. They've got a Young Leaders program, which is a 5-year indoctrination program into their principles. The goal of the program is to create world leaders who...
I love how he calls it an indoctrination program, which essentially is what it is.
Don't answer to their people because they don't care about them. They answer to their bosses at the World Economic Forum. Graduates of the program include admirable world leaders that are suspiciously in lockstep with the Great Reset, such as Justin Trudeau, Francis Macron, and Mark Zuckerberg, sponsoring partners of the World Economic Forum's Young Global...
Also the leader of Australia, New Zealand, I think Boris Johnson. It seems like the U.S. is reasonably resilient to this, which is a good thing for Americans. They're also the most armed country in the world too, aside from Switzerland, if I'm not mistaken. But we already know that Joe Biden's a puppet. Like he's not there. It's like we used to joke back in the day. We'd say, if somebody was stupid, we'd say, look, the motor's running, but nobody's behind the wheel, sort of thing. That's what you got with Joe Biden, right? Like he has handlers. So, he's just a placeholder for the people that don't want to be in front of the camera, but are basically pulling the strings, if you know what I'm saying. So they don't seem to be subscribing to the WEF stuff, hook, line, and sinker, like Macron, Trudeau, and a few of the other world leaders as well right now. But let's keep going.
Leaders program have been the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Google. I wonder why Google censors and shapes information to be in exact support of the World Economic Forum's narrative. Oh, another fun fact. The World Economic Forum is predicting a worldwide cyber attack. I'm pretty much a wizard at predict.
Okay. Predicting a worldwide cyber attack. So let's just think for a second. What country is known to have phenomenal hackers? Russia. Where is there a conflict going on in the world right now? Well, on the border between Russia and Ukraine. It's entirely feasible that something like this could come out of it. Hey, listen, just fair warning. That's the whole tinfoil hat thing that I wanted to sort of like have handy. Maybe I'll have to get one for you guys, if I keep doing stuff like this, but let's keep going.
The things I'm going to do too. The very concerned Schwab believes the cyber attack could bring a complete halt to our power grid, transportation, hospital services, and to our society as a whole. The World Economic Forum then simulated the cyber attack. Simulated or planned? I'm not sure, but they said it was a simulation, so it's probably best to just believe them. Oh, also the World Economic Forum, along with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, hosted Event 201, which oddly enough played out exactly as they planned, or simulated, or whatever. Let's move on. And here's a picture of Klaus Schwab sitting in front of a statue of Vladimir Lenin. I wonder why he's got a statue of one of the most murderous world leaders in history. Lenin killed an estimated 5 million people. And finally, remember Schwab's whole thing about you'll own nothing and be happy about it?
Look at this dork over here. They just find stock photography and slap some slogan on it that I'm sure a large part of the population thinks is a pretty cool idea. Yeah, it's it's just insane how pacification of the West is all consuming.
What's the World Economic Forum's plan to make that happen? Well, it's probably nothing, but consider this. BlackRock is an investment firm with $9 trillion under management, which is a higher GDP than every country on Earth, aside from the US and China. Before it turns out BlackRock has more political and financial influence than the Federal Reserve and most governments. Sounds cool, but what's the connection with the World Economic Forum? Well, again, and it's probably nothing, but BlackRock CEO Larry Fink is also just a board member of the World Economic Forum.
Let me just pause for a second, get a super chat here, just take a break from the playback. F22 Daniel, what bothers me about Orwell's 1984 is that he writes about all the problems regarding authoritarianism, but provides no solutions whatsoever. I will provide you with solutions today. Stay to the end. I am known for providing solutions. Sit tight, brothers. I got you covered. Hey, Rich, you should read the book, The Next Million Years, How to Kill Off Excess Population by Charles G. Darwin. It's public domain. You can read it for free. All right. Let's keep playing.
Well, that's super convenient. It probably just a coincidence. Is the World Economic Forum and BlackRock colluding in corporatism, where an unelected corporate elite dictates top down to the population? Well, they couldn't be doing that because they'd have to infiltrate the government, which they haven't done. Except for, in one of Joe Biden's first appointees once he took office, he named Brian Deese to be the director of National Economic Council. Brian Deese came from BlackRock.
Okay. Yeah, we're starting to connect some dots here. Let's keep going.
He was a global head of sustainable investing, and now he's Biden's main advisor for economic policy. But Biden's making the policy decisions, not the unelected corporate elites at BlackRock and the World Economic Forum. Of course, Biden's making all the decisions. Let's not be silly. Oh, look, there's a picture of Biden in the audience at the World Economic Forum. Oh, and also Kamala Harris's chief economic advisor is Michael Pyle. He came from BlackRock, where he was a global chief economic strategist.
Are you guys starting to see a pattern here?
Just overseeing the strategy for investing $9 trillion. Well, it looks like corporatism, but it's probably not. But if it was, it would actually be a viable strategy for BlackRock and the World Economic Forum to own everything and for you to own nothing. Oh, fun fact, BlackRock is buying up single-family homes at an alarming rate, oftentimes
So at no time in history has a institution bought up single-family homes at the rate that BlackRock is right now, by the way. He doesn't clarify that, but there was a bunch of other content that I came across that detailed it.
20 to 50% above asking price.
And they're overpaying for the real estate too, 20 to 50% higher, by the way.
So normal people like you and I can't own homes. Now, there is an interesting pattern to all this. You know how you hear about ancient tyrannical rulers who would rule over their dumb people by saying things like, yeah, if you don't do all of this slave labor and let me sleep with your wives, then God's going to make you all perish in a deadly storm. Well, God told me, and because I'm elite, I have access to this knowledge and you don't. So you better do as I say or you're going to die. Well, us peasants can't perceive what the king can, so we better do as he says.
Again, right? People love being ruled. That's what humans like. They like a ruler. They love it. They love it. That's why when they said, oh, we got to lock you down, you got to wear these masks and stand on dots. Like, people love standing on their dots, man.
Go ahead and bang my wife. And thank you for doing that for my protection, King. Good old fear-mongering, a predictable pattern as old as time itself. But with Klaus and the World Economic Forum, it's climate change is going to kill you, disease is going to kill you, and a cyber attack is going to get you. So you better do as we say. Or you're
Let's just recap. Climate change, disease, and cyber attacks. All things that you really can't pinpoint a source on. Just remember that, because there's a reason why COVID originated from China. It's a communist country. Where are you going to get the source data from? They're going to hide it from you. That's different with a democratic country. Even then, they're still going to try to hide it. We still don't know anything about this Hunter Biden laptop situation, of course, but, China was convenient for sure. Dude, like that was not a bat banging a snake. That's not where it came from.
You're going to die. I don't know. The weather looks pretty good to me. Why don't you ever smile, Klaus? You look like a sociopath. No, you don't understand. We elites have access to knowledge that you don't. So you better listen to us or you're going to die. Same old fun pattern of fear-mongering. They know of the scary problems and only they have the solutions. So listen up or you're going to die. Gotcha, Klaus. Nothing new here.
I like this guy. He's solid, man. Like he's funny.
We see you. In conclusion to the question, is Klaus Schwab the most dangerous man in the world? Here's his top guy again.
Humans are now hackable animals. The whole idea that humans have, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will. That's over. Free will, that's over.
So free will is over. Let that like marinate on that for a bit, right? Your free will, as far as these guys are concerned, is over. I remember when free will was a cool thing. Oh, I can't wait till I'm an adult so I can get a driver's license to drive a car and go where I want, sort of thing. Can't wait till I'm an adult and I make some money so I can travel and go where I want. Haven't been able to do that for like 3 years in Canada.
Will indeed be over if you outsource your thinking to outside influences and take the easy way out by choosing obedience over bravery. Doing so makes you very susceptible to being manipulated by fear. And if this happens, you will fail at remaining a free, sovereign individual. But here's how Schwab and his friends, who sociopathically never smile, fail at the Great Reset, and you succeed at remaining.
So he's offering a solution. He's basically saying choosing bravery over obedience. I'm going to talk more about that, and I think it ties more to sovereignty, if I'm being honest.
A free, sovereign individual. Be guided by your own critical thinking and what your heart and soul knows is right, and choose bravery over obedience. Obedience or bravery. Outsource your perspectives or do your own critical thinking. We are in the process of either the Great Reset or the Great Awakening.
All right, so that's that for that. He just kind of drones on for a little bit and then does an ad. Let me see here. What do we got in the super chats? Leo Varadkar, former Prime Minister of Ireland. Doesn't sound like a very Irish name. As a member of the World Economic Forum last year, the Irish in the South fled to Northern Ireland because Northern Ireland had no COVID passports. Yeah, there's a lot of people that have moved around the world as a result of this pandemic lockdown stuff. I have several friends that no longer live in Canada because at one point they were like, yeah, you know what? I don't like the tax rate, but I have family here and I've been here most of my life, so I'm just going to do it, whatever. But the straw that broke the camel's back was the whole, you can't go anywhere and you have to wear masks and everything's closed. They're like, fuck that, I'm getting out of here. And they sold their shit and they moved down to the Caribbean for the most part. Yeah, it's not a cool thing. Hey, Rich, how old are you? And is 30 too late to apply a red pill in life? No, dude, start it when you're 20. Doesn't matter. I don't know why you wait for that long. All right, so we minimize that. Where are we at with the poll? We got 533 votes. 94% are saying it's a bad thing, and a few are saying it's a good thing still. All right, so let me get to a couple of my notes over here, and then I'll drop the link, and you guys can, hey, you know what? I want to hear from the 6% that are saying it's a good thing, and I trust the elites. I want to hear your argument for that. That'll be interesting. So stick around. The join link will get dropped there in the live chat in a moment. In fact, here, let me grab it right now. I mean, you're going to have to wait for a minute for me to let you in, or a couple minutes. But if you guys are watching elsewhere, come over to YouTube. Entrepreneurs in Cars is the YouTube channel. And the join link to ask a question and join the show will be there. So I'm going to pin that to the top in a minute. I just want to let the poll run for a little bit. So that'll kind of go up in the ticker for a tiny bit. All right. Let's just scroll that up there. So let's talk about a few things that I see going on. So again, fair warning, I'm going to put on my pretend tinfoil hat right now and kind of break down where I see things going. And then I'll talk about solutions. And then we'll do some call-in stuff if there's anybody that wants to chop it up, or is from the, especially again, you know, like I want to hear from people that think that, you know, the elites are good and they have our best intentions at heart and all that good stuff. So yeah, if you got a solution with that, I definitely want to hear it. So here's what I see happening as a general trend, and you're not going to get all the correct information from news media sources, the mainstream media. You're not going to get honest information. It's generally deceptive. I mean, we've been lied to for a long time. I've been lied to my entire life. I mean, it's not just recently that they've been fluffing us up and bullshitting us. You know, remember back in the day when they said weapons of mass destruction, we're going to go in there and smoke them out of their caves. Yeehaw, fuck. Never had no weapons of mass destruction. Remember that? The whole entire fucking country was invaded over a lie. And that was an obvious one. There's others that are kind of like, you know, sort of gray area, or, you know, you might argue either way because there's not enough evidence to support the lie or not. But yeah, here, I can take these out until I take the call-ins. But yeah, people have been bullshitting us for a while. And what I know is, because again, I'm a freaking genius and I can pay attention to obvious things. Apparently, some people struggle with that, but they want more control over your life. They want more control over your freedom. They want to know as much as possible about you. You don't have any freedom. I remember, like, when did Facebook come out? It was 2006 or 7. It was very early, you know, back in those days, and it didn't really get mass adoption for several years after that. But I remember I was at a conference like 2009, 2010, when they just started to introduce advertising. I think it was around then. And the speaker said, you know, show of hands here, who is a customer of Facebook? And pretty much everybody was like, oh yeah, you know, I'm a customer of Facebook. You know, I use the service, sort of thing. And, you know, all hands went up and everybody sort of agreed with it. And then that's when he said, now sit down. You're not paying anything to use Facebook. You are not a customer. You're a data point for them, basically. So whenever something's free, a lot of people like free shit. People love free shit. Oh, this free shit. Give me some more free shit. We have a big entitlement problem, you know, in today's world, with especially younger men and women too. They all think that they're entitled to free shit. Oh, how dare you charge for something? Give me a freaking break. You know, people like free shit. So they think using something like Facebook or Twitter or even any other social media like TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, if something's downloadable for free, you are the product. Okay. You have to understand that you're giving away your information and your usage patterns to them, which they then use generally to sell you shit and collect data on what it is that you're doing with your time. Now, one thing that they struggle to get usage on, which they can now solve, which I believe Yuval Noah Harari was talking about or alluding to, is there is a lean into what is going to be an acronym, let's call it centralized banks digital currency, right? CBDCs, let's call it. So the governments of the world have seen the blockchain work. It's been successful. It's been around for quite a long time now. Bitcoin is, you know, the oldest blockchain out there. It's widely regarded as a solid store of value and proven itself. It's decentralized. Works very, very well. Now, they don't like decentralized. They like centralized, because you can't control and collect data on people on decentralized platforms. It's why they don't like the blockchain and cryptocurrencies, and why countries have been, from time to time talking about banning it. It's why China banned it, and banned mining over there, because they couldn't control it. And communist type of regimes want control. They can't enact their will on the population if they don't control the population. So right now, I mean, I could take cash out of my wallet. I don't have my wallet here, but I could take cash out of my wallet and I could give it to somebody and they could give me something and the government would not know about it. One of the stupidest arguments that I've heard made over the years is the government or government/mainstream media saying that, oh, Bitcoin is for criminals. Bull fucking shit. You know what gets moved around the most as a store of value dealing with criminal activity? It's cash. It's why when you see drug shipments impounded by government task force saving the world and all that shit, you see stacks and stacks of like $100 bills all tied up in like clear plastic bags and stuff like that. It's the US dollar, which is the number one source of crime, you know, or tied into criminal activity. It's not Bitcoin. Bitcoin, it's freaking public ledger. Okay. You can see these transactions, who they're going to, you know, where they're going from, you know, what the amount is, where they get stored, all that sort of stuff. It's, you know, that's what's great about decentralization, but the government wants to centralize currency. So what it is that you're going to see happen is we're going to move away from paper money, because we're basically at a point in time where they can print unlimited amounts of it. So it's not like it has any value. It's actually easier for them just to push a button and say, let's release X amount more central bank digital currency into the economy today, tomorrow, whatever. There's no printing involved. There's nothing involved. It's just a button, basically, which is kind of the way things work right now, because most of the money is generated on a screen today. Like, even if you go to a bank and get a mortgage, they're not, you know, taking on deposit $700,000 to go and transfer to the guy that, you know, sold the house. It's just new money that's generated on a screen. Click, click, Excel spreadsheet, done, sort of thing. Well, there's still no control over cash payments. And a lot of transactions, the government still doesn't have access to, you know, believe it or not, unless they have to, you know, subpoena the information from a financial institution. They're compelled to generate that for the government if need be. But, you know, for the most part, it's not super easy for them. But if they move everybody over to a central bank digital currency, then they're going to know exactly what you do, what everybody does with their money every day, every month, every week of their lives going forward. You want to go to the grocery store. So let me just kind of put this in perspective for you. Let's say that it's the year 2030. And by the way, somewhere around 2026 to 2028, the government in North America is indicating that they intend to have the ability to push a button and shut down your car if they want to. Okay, because most cars are electric. Even today, cars that are not electric, they're mostly connected somehow through like OnStar or push a button. I got an accident, and they'll call the, you know, like emergency services and send them over if you're unconscious or something like that. Like, cars are pretty much connected to the grid today, but in the future, the government's going to have the ability to push a button and shut down a car, which they'll argue is a good idea for safety reasons. I don't know if you guys remember a gentleman by the name of O.J. Simpson back in the day driving his Bronco down the highway. And, you know, you see all the state police, you know, around him. They're trying to get him off the road and safely deal with that. They'll say, well, you know, we can just push a button and shut down the car, sort of thing, in the future, which will seem tidy, but it won't be. I mean, today, Tesla, if you're not paying for your Tesla lease or your finance or whatever, they don't have to send a guy out to repo it or to locate it. And they check your address and your home address and your residential address or anything like that. Tesla actually tells you exactly where the car is located, GPS location. The tow truck driver can go and hook up his car. And even if he can't hook up the car, they can unlock the car remotely, push a button, make it back out of an area where he can't hook it up to, so that it's easier for him to drag it away. It's unlocked, he hooked it up, and he takes it back. I bet in the future, Tesla will just push a button and the car will just drive back to their center on its own, you know, because that'll be okay. But what I'm getting at here is, we're talking about things like World Economic Forum paying attention to stuff like climate change, and they're going to use a crisis to exact more control over you, right? Controlling your finances, monitoring your finances, your spending habits, where you go, what you do. And them having access to all these things is going to be part and parcel of that. So let's say it's the year 2030 and you decide to, it's March, let's call it 28th. Let's say it's close to the end of the month, right? They're probably going to have monthly quotas under the guise of, oh, you know, carbon credits, or the baby seals are all dying, the icebergs are melting, and, you know, the polar bears have nowhere to swim or to catch their seal, sort of thing. And then you're going to all of a sudden have a limitation on the amount of mileage that you can put on your car. And if you've exceeded the mileage, you can't use your car. So it's March 28th of the year 2030, and you want to go to the grocery store to get some groceries and some food, and your car won't run because you've exceeded your carbon credits. Okay, so now you hop on your bicycle and you ride to the store, you walk to it, because everything's within close proximity, you know. That's how they're encouraging people to live. So you get to the store, you get all your stuff, it's in the buggy, you go to the checkout thing, and you know, she scans your steak and she goes, oh, sorry, I can't sell this to you because you've exceeded your carbon credits. You can't have this meat right now. You're gonna have to wait till you reset next month. So they take the steak away from you and they hand you a bag of crickets or bugs or some shit like that that are supposed to substitute the protein. Maybe it's a big bag of soy, right? That's the way things are potentially going to go. And they're going to argue because of climate change. They're going to argue because of the next pandemic. They're going to argue because of, I don't know, a Russian hack or whatever it happens to be, that they need access to all this information. So this is why we're taking away your paper money and giving you the digital currency. This is why these safety features are in your car, not so, you know, the world will get destroyed, or in case somebody steals a car and we want to shut it down, or we have an O.J. Simpson, you know, scenario where we don't want to endanger the public, we want to shut it down. So these are some of the things that I'm starting to see, you know, on the horizon, if you know what I'm saying. It is definitely coming down the road at some point. Ace of Diamonds says, thank you for changing my life, doing the work, lost 35 kilograms. That's a lot of weight, dude. Awesome. Read your book, Rolos, loving it. Keep up good work. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Tommy's in the house saying, there was a fantastic argument for globalism and elite control by integrating many backward countries in the 20th century. Much harder argument today. See, the thing being with the whole, like, most people are going to buy into this, and you can tell by the way human beings vote right now. It's the reason why Canada is essentially a lockdown state, because Canadians have voted for liberalism. They voted for Justin Trudeau, the new Democrat Party. Both of these two parties control the majority of the House of Commons in any decision making whatsoever, which also, you know, conveniently tie into more free shit and handouts and just stay home. Like, there's actually people right now that I'm hearing talk publicly on social media because it's free and they broadcast their shit all the time. I mean, if you want to learn more about the mentally deranged, we used to lock them up in insane asylums back in the day. Now they have a TikTok account. They go make these bullshit fucking videos all day long talking about how awesome stuff is or, you know, complaining about how they don't like certain things. But yeah, like, you get the idea. It's certainly going in such a way that your peers, your neighbors, you know, the people in your country, especially in the West, are voting for bigger government with more control. It's certainly happening in Canada, not so much in the US. Again, I mean, the good thing about the US, you guys are one of the most armed countries in the world, and that should never change. That is an important, like, it was brilliance on the foresight of whoever wrote that Constitution. I'm not that familiar with American history, you know, the forefathers, whatever they were called. That was brilliant, you know, for them to include that amendment into it, where the public had the right to bear arms. Justin Trudeau, by the way, at any opportunity that he's had available to him here in Canada, has taken that right away from Canadians that are lawful, you know, law-abiding, you know, citizens that acquire their firearms for hunting, for the protection of, you know, farmstead on their property, to deal with varmint, stuff like that. But I think it was 2016 or so, there was a shooting out in the East Coast where some guy illegally acquired a police uniform, a police cruiser. Now, I don't know exactly how good these replicas were, or if they were, you know, the identical ones, and illegally acquired firearms. And he used that tragedy, in fact, to enact new law to take away Canadians' firearms, access to buy stuff like that. He's banned certain firearms, you know, as a result of that. And it's like all these crimes, you know, are committed by pieces of shit, but then the people that are law-abiding are the ones that are paying for it. And he's using that argument to strip Canadians away from the right to bear arms. So there's all these small little things that happen, you know. I've always say, look, you know, people go, oh, well, you don't know what you're talking about, or, you know, you're drawing conclusions, blah, blah, blah. Really? Because if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it has webbed feet like a duck, if it waddles its tail like a duck, it's probably a duck. Okay, I don't have to tell you it's a duck. I could tell you. Let me describe an animal for you. It's very tall, lives in Africa, has an extended neck, it has polka dots all over it. It's kind of a yellowy color, and its legs are really strange to the point where it can't bend them. So when it has to drink, it has to spread them apart so far to get its head down low enough to drink water. And you'd be like, that's a giraffe, right? That's kind of like what we're doing here. You know, we're kind of like picking up the breadcrumbs and connecting some dots and seeing what things look like, and then drawing some of those conclusions. So what's the solution to all this? Let me pull this down here. I don't know why I left the Unplugged Alpha brand on the screen there. Take that off. My bad. So what's the solution to all this? Well, the pacification of the West is obviously contributing to it. You know, I was having a conversation, and I didn't make a note to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. So I did a video on my channel, and I think it's called the pacification of the West, if I'm not mistaken. It's old. It's like 4 years old, maybe even 5 years old. But I saw what was happening at the time as it related to men becoming weaker and weaker and making, you know, bullshit choices. And you can't control a strong society. You can't control independent thinking. You just can't. If you want big government, if you want control over your citizens, if you want to enact restrictions and monitor them, you need sheep. So government is essentially engineering and has been engineering sheep over the last couple of decades that I've noticed anyway. A lot of people have speculated that the reason why, I think it's something like in a recent survey, it was definitely in the 20% range, something like 25 to 28% of young men and women today now identify with the alphabet pronoun crowd, you know, the alphabet brigade. And I think that's up till the age of 33 was the group that they were dealing with. Typically in the past with humans, I think the incidence of homosexuality is like very, very small. It's like less than 5% or 3%. In the animal kingdom, it's even lower than that, right? It just generally doesn't happen. But now we live in an environment today where a lot of people identify with pronouns, and they're unclear on whether their gender is male or female. I mean, today in, you know, the news media, it's all over Twitter today. They're talking about this Leah Taylor, I think is her name. It used to be a dude that was I think it was ranked something like in the, it was either the 40s or the 400s as far as like, you know, top swimmers, you know, top professional swimmers. It was abysmal. It wasn't even in the top 10. So couldn't compete against biological males, went to go compete against biological females and destroys them all. And it's what they wanted, right? You know, they wanted progressivism. They wanted more inclusivity. They wanted, you know, let's hold hands and sing Kumbaya and all that kind of shit and take care. It's like, you know, that's what they wanted. Now they're upset at the results that they're starting to experience. Okay. So they've been encouraging this behavior. It's why government mandates legislations and laws. I mean, here in Canada, Jordan Peterson was made famous back in the day for speaking out against the compelled speech on pronouns. He's like, no, I'm not going to use pronouns. That's stupid for all of these reasons. It's why the government is mandating legislation to facilitate the pacification of the West, because when the West is pacified fully, it votes for bigger government and more control because it can't think. Low T. I mean, I have a video on my Playing to Win series with Dr. Anthony J, who wrote the book Estrogeneration. And this guy's a scientist, very well researched, knows exactly what he's talking about. It's a great book. Again, it's one of the books that I have on my recommended reading list. I think all guys should read it because it gets you clear on the fuckery that goes on with how environmental estrogens are being forced upon us at levels that we've never seen before in history. To quickly recap, it's in toiletries, it's in sunscreens, when you drink tap water, because they can't filter out what women take in with birth control pills and those hormones and the estrogens. They pee them out in the toilet, they go in the water system, they clean out all the poo and the toilet paper and all the debris that ends up in the water, like all the particles. You can't filter out hormones. So those hormones then, as you open up your tap and you drink the water, end up back in your system. And there's a lot of men today. It's why you see a lot of guys today walking around with high-pitched voice and man boobs. There's absolutely no question that the West is being pussified. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of stuff I could talk about around that. So let's talk about solutions before I take some of these call-ins over here. And let me just pin that link for the call-in stuff. I'll take as many as I can today. I'm gonna try to chop this up for a bit with you guys. And again, survey results, 911 votes. It says, is the Great Reset a good thing or a bad thing? 93% say it's a bad thing. I don't trust them. 7% say it's a good thing. I trust the elites. I'd love to hear from one of the trust your elites guys in the call-in segment. So I'm going to end that poll and drop the call-in link pinned to the top. There it is. Come on over to YouTube and pin message. All right. So solutions. So how do we, I mean, JP had a good point. He's basically like, just don't yield to it. Don't succumb to it. Decentralization is definitely one of the solutions here. There's a reason why, again, countries, nonprofits, any of the elites have been saying for a long time, we need to ban Bitcoin. It's bad. They're making up bullshit stories like criminals are using it. Also lies. I already dealt with that. Decentralization is a good thing because it removes power from the central elite. It removes power from big banks. It's permissionless. I don't need anybody's permission. If I want to send money from me to any one of you guys in a live chat right now, I can send in a cryptocurrency transfer on any number of different kinds of currencies without anybody stopping me from doing it. There's no like giant fee, you know, from the bank or a waiting period of 2 days, or they ask me a fucking survey like, where did this money, like whenever I go to the bank right now, and if you make any deposit over $10,000 because of anti-money laundering laws, and fair enough, you know, you don't want, you know, criminals, or you don't want, you know, anti-money laundering, anti-terrorism. They ask you a sequence of questions. It's like, I'm getting fucking tired of answering questions about whenever I have to make a deposit. So an easy solution to that is just deposit less than what the threshold is, right? But they want to know everything about it. Well, where's this money coming from? And I tried to fuck with them one time. You know, she's like, well, you know, I have to put in here, you know, where this money's coming from. Like, why does it matter? It's my money. Well, she goes, well, it's over this amount, so I have to put it in here. You know, it's for the bank. I'm like, doesn't matter. It's my money. Why do I need to tell you that? Right. And we had to go back and forth. Manager gets involved. I was like, you know, let's just see where this goes, sort of thing. They're adamant about it. So decentralization is a important component of a solution to this problem. And it's beyond me why most of the world has not adopted it to this point. I mean, there's not a lot of forward thinkers, and there's not a lot of guys that are unplugged that see the code in the matrix that know exactly what's going on. Most people are plugged in plebs sleepwalking through life, you know, if we're being honest. So you just have to kind of accept that reality. But, you know, when it smacks you across the forehead, like a frying pan of the forehead sort of moment, like it did in Greece and Cyprus and Argentina, when they realized that the currency was worth shit, and they were basically wheelbarrowing in money to weigh it. Like they didn't count it. They would weigh it and set on a fucking scale because it's so, you know, worthless. And people try to go to the banks to get their money out when they found the state actually seized it. That's when they're like, oh, now I see a fucking argument for decentralization. Now I see an argument for Bitcoin. But by then, you're not one of the whales. You haven't accumulated anything. You've been sitting on the sidelines like a muppet thinking it's not important because the government's been broadcasting this shit in the fucking news all day long, telling you that, oh, it's, you know, it's used by criminals, or it's not safe, or, you know, blah, 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 whatever the narrative is. Decentralization and all, see, things get censored all the time. I was watching, so I'm flipping through, you know, the YouTubes the other day, and I've not seen Donald Trump in an interview anywhere live for fucking ages. And this was on YouTube, and it was a brand new podcast. I think it was called the Full Send Podcast. Some of you have probably heard of it or heard of it. Apparently it's quite popular. And, you know, it was an interview with Donald Trump, and I watched the whole thing. It was like 45 minutes long or something like that. And it was just conversation. It was just like, hey, you know, what are you doing? What do you think of this and all that? And one of the things he said, he goes, you know, you guys are going to have this video taken down. Like, they're going to remove this. And they're like, nah, they're not. You know, we've put out tons of videos. You know, we're just a friend of Dana's, Dana White, and, you know, we're mutual friends. So he introduced us. So I thought it'd be cool to have a conversation. He's like, well, I'm telling you right now, this is going to disappear at some point in the very near future. And he was right. Very fucking quickly, they took that shit down. Decentralization of content, I think, is a great idea. And nobody's really figured it out just yet. It's going to come because there's people working on it. There's a lot of smart people working on it, because the cool thing about a lot of smart people is they're mostly libertarians, and they're smart enough to see the bullshit. They can see through the lies, you know, and they're all like, we're going to go in there and get his weapons of mass destruction. We're like, yeah, bullshit. There's nothing there. And they're also like, hey, you know, you take this jab and stand on this dot, and there's a pandemic, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm not saying that, you know, people didn't get sick and die. I lost a family member to the freaking COVID bullshit, not because of COVID, but because of shit they gave him at the hospital. I'm telling you guys, you have to keep your eyes open and take a look at what's going on. Anyway, back to the decentralization. So we're talking about that. Okay, decentralization of information, of money. Ideally, decentralization is a good thing, but it's going to be an uphill battle because government doesn't want things decentralized. They want it centralized. So if more of the population sees the value in decentralization, got my nano ledger here, speaking of which, got to open that up and set it up. If more of the population leans into it and adopts it, there's not much the government can do about that. I mean, they're still going to cram bullshit down people's throats. They're still going to cram CBDCs. They're still going to probably cram universal basic income. They're going to cram narratives around progressivism and liberalism and more of the isms out there. It's going to keep coming. But decentralization is something that you're going to want to look for. So you guys want solutions. Number one thing is do what you can to participate in a decentralized economy. Okay. So we've talked about that. Arm yourself. Number two. I realize that there's a part of the population that doesn't like, defending themselves. They think that it's unnecessary. They want to trust in the state or the military or the police force or the fact that people are just good and kind or whatever, the humble notion might be at the time. But the reality of the world is that humans are warring. We're violent. We've been violent for a long fucking time, and we're not a peaceful being. We're just not. We are more violent than any other species on the planet. We've killed more of our own. We're vile, disgusting things. We're a scourge of the earth. If you want to call it that, that's essentially what humans are. So thinking that, if I just think warm and fuzzy and inclusivity and rainbows and butterflies and all that sort of shit, nobody's going to hurt me. Nothing bad's ever going to happen. Bad shit happens, and it happens a lot, and it has happened a lot through history, and it's not going to fucking stop. And if you think just trusting your overlords is a good thing, you're going to see how badly mistaken you are in the future. I'm going to move on from that. That's just learning basic skills for yourself. And inclusive in that is learning how to fight. How many times have you guys watched my Unplugged Alpha show on a Monday night and some guy calls in, he's like, where do I find, cool unplugged guys to hang out with and chop up these ideas and, upgrade my network, right? First thing I basically say to them is, cool, man, you're part of a dojo? No, I don't fight. Why not? That's where those guys are. The guys that are the most unplugged that I've met anywhere are fighters. Whether it's professional or amateur or anywhere on that spectrum, they either fight, they know how to fight, or they're learning how to fight. Let's keep going. Education. There's arguments around depopulation. There's arguments around we need more population. But what I will say as far as a solution, because I don't really fucking care if they're trying to depopulate or they're trying to overpopulate or whatever it is they're trying to do. I can't control that. But I'm talking about solutions that are within your control. And one of the things that you should look at if you're a parent is homeschooling your kids or private schooling them. They're both going to take time and money from you, which is an inconvenience, but you're going to have to accept it. So this is only going to be available to people that are properly sorted in their lives. Okay, meaning they've got their money sorted and they can afford to keep the mother or their kids home to raise their kids and educate them, or they've got sufficient money and resources where they can put them in a private school system where they have some control over choosing which school the kids go into because of the curriculum that they use and the stuff they stay away from and the stuff they lean into. All of that stuff's really, really important. And I think that if you're going to raise kids and leave them up to the state to educate, you're basically screwing yourself over. You're letting yourself down. So educate your children privately is basically what I'm saying. Don't let the state indoctrinate them with the woo-woo bullshit that's pussifying the West. That's going to end up with more state control, more centralization, not decentralization, and a weaker, more compliant society that agrees to stand on dots. I truthfully believe that they thought that this whole beer bug pandemic was going to be that for them, and I think they've realized that it failed. In fact, I've got a great clip here I got to show you guys, because people woke up when they started to see. I said this earlier today on Twitter. I think honestly that Joe Rogan has unplugged and red pilled more people than any other. I'm going to call it a creator in history, just because he's got the Spotify deal, which essentially gives him free reign for the most part, with the exception of the stupid apologies that he keeps making, which I don't agree with. And I've already talked about that in a prior video. But he's red pilled a lot of people with Dr. Malone, Dr. McCullough. I can't remember the Muslim guy with the British accent that was talking about all the fuckery that's going on as well. He's red pilled a lot of people because he's getting 40, 50, 60 million views on some of his podcast episodes. And that's a lot. That's way more than the mainstream media. And I think that's alone. And God bless the guy. He's doing the right thing. I think that's unplugged a lot of people. I think it's a great thing, in fact. So decentralization, again, it's going to become really, really, really important. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, Elon Musk is such a good guy and he's solving problems in the world and I really respect him for that. Cool. We're saving the polar bears and the fucking seals and all that with electric energy. But I think that a bigger problem to tackle, I mean, if we're being honest, electric cars just transfer the source of pollution from the tailpipe to the chimney at the coal-fired plant, because that's where most of the electricity comes from, for the most part. It's not windmills and solar panels. That's where it comes from. Guys like Elon Musk, I mean, if they really want to save the planet, should be investing in nuclear power, for example, or like a decentralized social media platform that really properly works, right? That is going to get mass adoption. Anyway, where's that clip with Bill Gates and his wife? The dude that looks like his wife. There it is. Share on screen. Where's my headphones? Give me a second, because I want you to hear this little clip. It's like 5 seconds long. Share screen, Chrome tab, boom, and okay, let's play this real quick. It's very, very short.
So we, we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is will get attention this time.
Look at the smug look on this guy's face, and this guy's face too, by the way. Look at the smug look on his face. He goes, we'll have to prepare for the next one, and I'd say it'll get attention this time, is basically where he's driving at. Like, they're not even hiding it. And people are going to criticize me. Oh, you're making mountains out of molehills, or maybe you're interpreting wrong. It's like, dude, I know people. I have a very good bullshit detector, and that reeks of bullshit. Okay, don't know if it's constipation or diarrhea. I know it's shit though. That's what I know. Anyway, last solution I wanted to present to you guys, again, things that you can control before I take some of these call-ins over here. I see you guys waiting. Let me know in the private chat, by the way, those of you that are waiting, whether or not you want to hit on whether you think the elites are doing the right thing or if it's a bad thing. Last thing is becoming independent from things that you would typically lean on in the past. Food, energy, those would be the main ones, right? Like, where are you going to put your electricity or get your gas from to put it in the car? That's very hard to, take control of for yourself. I mean, I've seen some friends of mine that have put solar panels, and you need a lot of them today, to get the amount of energy that you need to run your household and even charge an electric car, for example. You need a lot of them, and they cost a lot of money. So this isn't easily accessed by a lot of people, which again supports the argument that I keep making, to you guys, which some people still get pissed off at. I have no idea why, when I say, try to be a millionaire by the time you're 30, 40, the latest, because you need financial freedom. You need the ability to make these choices and decisions. Like, let's say bad shit comes down the road and you want to have control of your energy and not rely on the government or their rates or when they're going to give it to you or when you can or can't use it, sort of thing. And, you want to put solar panels on your house and be independent that way. There's a lot of guys that I've seen that have set up diesel generators, water collection systems, so they don't have to rely on the state delivering clean drinking water. They generate their own through rainwater and purification systems. They grow their own food, so they don't have to rely on, the supply of food that comes via the grocery stores. We've seen a massive increase in prices over the last couple of years with inflation. And, they're using numbers here in Canada, like, recently it was determined to be like 5.7%, and it's a lot more than that. In the US, they've said it's something like 7 or 8%, but it's still a lot more than that, right? It's a trailing number, and they're not including enough of the data to really, make you understand it. I mean, because if I go to the grocery store and I want to get a stalk of celery to juice for myself, excuse me, I think that was like $1.99, 99 cents at one point. You're paying like double, in some cases triple that rate. So in the real consumables that the average person uses, i.e. groceries, for example, you're paying a lot more. So being independent from what they can control is a good thing. It's like, it's part of the reason why you don't see Western leaders, speaking of this conflict with Russia and Ukraine and the prices of gas today as we stand in 2022 at the end of March, they removed the ability to produce their own energy in the West. There was a pipeline that the Canadian Prime Minister basically shot down. The US government didn't want to approve it. Apparently the Democrats have recently blocked it. There was something I saw on Twitter earlier. But pipelines and domestic production have been removed from the toolbox under the guise of protecting the climate. Now, let's use the climate change argument for a little bit. Let's say they're right. Let's protect the North American economy and climate and the polar bears and the seals and all this stuff here. And let's not mine the earth because it's damaging, and, you know, insert that narrative. Okay, maybe you're right. But now where does the oil and gas come from? Because you still need it. You still have trucking, you still have rail, you still have shipping, you still have air, you still have cars, you still have heating costs. These people don't understand. That has to come from somewhere. So whether you stop making it domestically or you get it outside, it still comes from somewhere. So now it comes from places like Russia. You know, let's use it as an example. And do you think Russia or China, for example, is going to be a cleaner producer of oil and gas and electricity? No, they don't do things that way, right? So when we had domestic production that met our needs and we were a net exporter instead of an importer, things were a lot better than the price of oil and gas and, you know, producing products, because a lot of shit, by the way, is made from oil and gas, like plastics, like the plastic wrapper on this is made from petroleum products, for example. It's funny. There was a picture somebody showed earlier today of some protester at a English football game who had something on his shirt along the lines of, you know, protesting oil and gas, you know, industries and gas and, you know, the environment sort of stuff. And he zip tied himself to the goalpost. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but zip ties are made from plastic, which is an oil and petroleum product. Dude is like literally protesting companies and securing himself to the goalposts with things that those companies manufacture. So this is the insanity that a lot of these people have, is they don't realize, okay, well, you know, you can be all warm and fuzzy and try to save the baby seals by stopping or significantly reducing oil and gas production domestically and getting it from somewhere else, like Saudi Arabia or Russia or something like that, or Venezuela. But that's a problem, right? So the government knows this, right? They know what happens. I mean, they're not stupid. We think they're stupid, but we know that they know what they're doing, you know, for the most part. It's just that they're incompetent as a whole, because people vote for incompetency in big government. You want to solve a lot of these problems by voting? Vote for small government, vote for more personal freedom, vote for more accountability. That's basically the concept of libertarianism, right? Liberalism, socialism is more about state control and bigger government and free shit. You know, somebody once said, people in the West don't want freedom. They want free shit now, right? And that's basically what they vote for. So you can see those patterns. So back to the point of becoming independent, take control of your food supply, take control of your energy supply. Whatever you can do, take control of that as much as possible, because the more you rely on the government for that shit, the more you're going to pay the consequences down the road. All right. Before I take some of these call-ins over here, and that's pinned in the top comment of the YouTubes, guys. Let me just take that out and close that screen. In the private chat, let me know what it is that you want to talk about. And before we switch over to the call-in segment, let me just pay some bills around here and run an ad segment for you. This episode is brought to you by the Unplugged Alpha Supplement Line, Grondike Soap Company, and Chad's Face Scrub. Brothers, if you're like me and you take what you put in your body seriously, you'll want to use the Unplugged Alpha Supplement Line. An obsession with absorption is what sets this line apart from the others. You want to make sure you absorb as much of the supplements as possible so you don't end up peeing out expensive urine. My supplement line is made in the United States from the highest quality domestic ingredients, and unlike cheap supplements from China and plastic bottles, mine ship in dark glass bottles to keep your supplements fresher, longer, and won't seep endocrine disrupting plastics into your supplements. Nothing is a hard tablet. Everything is an easily digested bioavailable capsule. You can filter all products by their various categories, including testosterone support, estrogen metabolism, fat burning, immune health, sleep support, and performance. Visit theunpluggedalpha.com/shop and use the subscribe and save option to get 10% off your supplement orders, or just use coupon code ALPHA10 for 10% off a one-time order to try it out. Men, I use Tactical Soap and God of War beard oil every day. Tactical Soap is a handmade product made in the United States from ingredients you can actually pronounce, not conventional endocrine-lowering toiletry chemicals. Both the soap and beard oils are infused with bioidentical pheromones that are designed by a clinical psychologist and pheromone expert to maximize attractiveness to the opposite sex. Visit coopersoap.com and get 10% off your order today. Gentlemen, my go-to face scrub to keep this manly face clean and clear is Chad's. Again, it's incredibly important to me to only use products with all natural ingredients without nasty chemicals that disrupt male hormone levels or convert to estrogen in your body. And unlike watery scrubs that slip between your fingers, this thick face scrub with black lava sand gives you powerful results in one go. Visit getchads.com and you'll be redirected to the Amazon store. You'll get 10% off when you use coupon code GetChads10. You can find all the links I've just mentioned pinned below in the top YouTube comment. If you want to learn more about why I endorse these natural products to my audience, search on my YouTube channel for an episode I did with Dr. Anthony J titled Playing to Win number 21, How Estrogenics Make You Fat, Sick, and Infertile with Dr. Anthony J. Let's get on with the show. All right. Welcome back. Thanks for taking 3 minutes to check that out. The links for anything mentioned in that reel will be pinned in the top comment for those watching the replay after the show. So what do we got here? There's a few super chats I haven't dealt with, and then we'll take some of these call-ins. Globalism, changed my life, 3K. Tommy, okay, we dealt with that one. USB, real reason for the Great Reset and a lot of other geopolitical turmoil is that we're going into a mini ice age. We're going into a super scarcity government snow by 2030 research. So we talked about climate change early on. The climate is constantly changing on planet Earth, always has done so, always will do so. And there's a number of different factors that go into place. The Earth will heat and cool. I don't know what's going to happen by 2030. So let's just say stuff moves along. Hey, Rich, one question. I'm a 26-year-old. I want to give fighting one more go and try to go pro and make a life out of it. I've had a chance in the past, got too much in my way and fell off. What's the question, dude? Great as always, Rich. A few members. We got a super chat here. The government is pointing the finger at Russia now. Yeah, it's definitely what they're doing, man. Then they implement their cyber attack. They will claim it is Russia's fault. Entirely possible. See, I am not the only one that sees the breadcrumbs dropping everywhere and allows us an opportunity to see dots connect. Might be completely wrong. You might hate me, right? It says, let's go, Brandon. Rich is not a Trump supporter. Look, I don't give a fuck. I just don't want people involved in my life telling me what to do. Simple as that. All right. We're good. Let's see who we got here in the chat. We got a private chat. Lloyd, hello, Cheetah. Elites want nothing for us. Duke. No. All right, Lloyd, I'm going to pull you in, and then we'll give Duke 31 a shot. All right, buddy, what do you got for me today?
Hi, Rich. Okay, yeah, so I'm from South Africa, and I've been following your YouTube channel for quite a long time. Also got your book. It's really good stuff.
Thank you.
Is there anything specific?
What's the question? Or is there something that you wanted to talk about as it related to the poll?
No, I got no issues. I'm just hanging around.
No, man, it's not, dude. Okay, I'm going to remove you, and I'm going to say it again, guys. Listen, when I drop the join link, it's to come in to interact with me on the show. You want to ask a question, you want to contribute on something. Every once in a while, somebody doesn't pay attention to that, and they show up anyway. Watch the show from the YouTube channel. Okay, you don't watch it from the green room. We go here to the private. Dave, Dodge, Hawk, Joe, Andrew. Okay, let's see what Dave's got for me. Dave, what do you got for me today, buddy? I know you know the rules here.
Yeah, can you hear me? Because I doesn't. Okay.
The Great Reset. What's your thought?
I get iPrimus. It's a publication for donations out of Hillsdale College,
Mhm.
and they just did a Michael Rechtenwald did a article basically exactly on the stuff you're talking about.
Mhm.
But his summarization is, because the goals of the Great Reset depend on the obliteration not only of free markets, but of individual liberty and free will, it is perhaps ironically unsustainable.
Mhm.
Like earlier attempts at totalitarianism, the Great Reset is doomed to ultimate failure. So we have to keep fighting this, at the individual level. And
I
I
think
think,
I think what's happening right now, Dave, is that the elites are probing and prodding at the resiliency of the general population. So I don't know, like we can use the truckers as an example. So the truckers are like, fuck this, we're tired of this nonsense. We're not showing pieces of paper. We're by ourselves 99% of the time. Why are they forcing us to do this? Let's go up to Ottawa. Go up to Ottawa, they park the trucks there and they peacefully dance around and pray and hold hands and hug and all that kind of shit. And there's a brotherhood that's formed because they're looking for freedom. And then the leader of the country comes on and goes, these guys are misogynist, racist, terrorists, and if they don't leave, we're going to do stuff. And then they wait and they don't leave because, of course, they want their freedom back. So he goes, okay, well, here's the stuff that we're going to do now. We're going to freeze your bank accounts. We're going to cancel your insurance. We're going to have your vehicles towed. We're going to bring out our law enforcement and trample old ladies on walkers with their horses and shit. And, let's just see what happens. And you know what? He got away with it. He got away with it. Like we've never seen a Western democracy enact this level of authoritarianism on its population, arguably over something that 99.9% of the people survive if they get, right? So I think that they're poking and prodding to see what happens, right? Like, let's release this thing from China, this beer bug, and see where it goes. And let's take people's money away and freeze their accounts and cancel their insurance, sort of thing, when they do things that we don't like. And the funny thing is, I see the governments, the state, the World Economic Forum, like all these elitist sort of groups plotting us against each other, right? Like, what do we see for the last couple of years? Everybody fighting on social media about the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated. Who cares? If you want to take a jab, take it. If you need to take it to do what you're doing, take it. I don't care. But why are you blaming everything on everybody else without any proof? It's just, they mobilize the TikTok pronoun crowd to like have a spaz on everybody, and it worked. I don't know. Am I offside here, Dave? What do you think?
no, you've got the basic gist of it. We still need to resist and fight for our rights and not let them take away everything that we have. If you look at the during the COVID lockdowns, what they did, they isolated everybody so we had no way to coordinate to fight back.
Yeah. Well, they also, as people tried to say, hey, let's organize a thing here, like we saw this in Canada and Australia and New Zealand, more than anywhere else in the world, but it happened in other places too. If you had a private Facebook group where you're like, hey, we're going to get together here, they would basically intercept that. I mean, we saw lots of videos of the police visiting people at home, either taking them away or saying, hey, we came across this post on social media. You should know that if you do this, it's going to violate this, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, we have to fight this.
Yeah. So do you think my recommendations are solid? Decentralization, learn how to protect yourself, learn how to source your own food and your energy.
Yeah.
It's about the only thing that you can control, because I don't think that we're going to control voting. I think that you're going to see more liberalism, more isms, more communism, more socialism, more free shit, more universal basic income, more automation, right?
Yeah, it's pretty obvious that the Western elites are favoring their own interests over the public good, or the regular plebs, that are in Canada and the US and most of the Western countries. And the whole point is they're shutting off our rights, and they're shutting off, well, it's like when they quit allowing people to go to restaurants, even though there wasn't really any evidence that there was restaurants were the spread of the COVID things. That was mostly group activities like singing in a choir at church.
Mhm.
You know, they completely collapsed that part of our economy, and a lot of those companies and businesses won't come back. They
No.
never will.
Now, a lot of people lost their jobs. They lost their businesses. A lot of people, you know, really suffered at the hand of all of this. And we know that Bill Gates made off with a fortune participating in the pandemic as, you know, an advisor, a consultant, and an investor in, you know, vaccination and being heavily invested in that. You know, we've seen guys like
Yep.
Jeff Bezos, like
Mhm.
everything that he
Amazon.
lost in his divorce, he made back. I mean, Amazon's done really well. Like when you lock down the economy and you can't go down the street to a mom and pop shop, you're going to buy shit online, right? So dropping off boxes on people's front porch was very, very profitable.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hey, look, again, I have a very good bullshit detector, and you know, I see it. I don't know. You see
Yeah.
it, Dave?
Yeah,
I know you see
it went, you know, that alarm went off pretty thoroughly when they first started talking about lockdowns. It's like,
Yep.
oh, hey, we've seen this before in Russia and China and every other place that the totalitarian governments started killing the populations off.
Yep. All right, brother. I'm going to grab a few more of these before I
Great,
wrap
not a
up.
problem.
Thanks, man. Let's see what we got here in the super chats real quick before I go to the next caller. As a wealthy broke man says, I mostly agree, but some of the things said are quite irrational fear mongering. I'm not sure if you mean on my end or on the government's end, but on a balance of probabilities, I promise you, my friend, I am more right than what you're being told by the mainstream media. Again, if you guys want to chime in on the show, the wealthy broke man, for example, if you know, if you think the global elites are doing the right thing and you should trust them, or if you don't trust them, click the link up there pinned at the top of YouTube. It says come over to YouTube, and there's oh no, actually that's the wrong link. I pinned the wrong one. Damn it. Where's my StreamYard link? Yeah, here. I got to grab the right link. I invite, copy to clipboard. Why does that drop that wrong paste here? YouTube. Okay. One day I'm going to get myself a Jamie like Joe Rogan. So shows like this. Okay. And replace pin message. There we go. So that's pinned over the top if you guys want to come on in and ask a question. Joe, Hawk, Andrew, Jad. Okay, here you go, Joe. We're going to bring you in first. All right, what do you got for me, buddy?
Hey, coming at you from Pittsburgh, Rich.
What's up in Pittsburgh?
We finally got some spring here today.
Very nice.
Can't complain about that. But
so what do you think about the Great Reset situation, man?
I'm 56 years old,
All
and
right.
I've never seen the crap that I'm seeing now, and I mean that in a not a global sense, obviously, but personally.
Yeah.
I'm
what kind of crap? Like, what are you seeing exactly?
Like, what's the loss of the society's mind? Like, what the hell are people thinking?
Do you think the whole mass formation psychosis is a reality? The stuff that Dr. Malone and McCullough were talking about?
I don't know that. I don't know that that's the right name, but I believe that people are believing what they're told to believe. I'll put it that way. I think on a scale like we've never seen before, but it's like, I get that they got away with that back in the day when the families would sit around like the radio or like the one black and white tube TV that they had, and you know, they would consume whatever they were told because it's all they had now, right? Right.
But I mean, today we live in a world where it's like, okay, you can compare information, right? You can go right to the head of the guy that fucking wrote the code for the mRNA vaccine, and you know, he'll sit on a 3-hour podcast and talk to another guy about exactly what his thoughts are. You wouldn't have got that back in the 40s or 50s or 60s, right?
Well, I mean, I guess my thinking is the problem is even bigger than that. I mean, Western society has been demoralized. Everything that people read, see, and hear appears to be driven in a sense to just bring people's morals down, bring people's thoughts down.
Fear.
You know, going to speak basically firsthand from
fear's how you control people. That guy over there has weapons of mass destruction. Let's go get them.
Oh yeah.
And you know, they goose people a couple of decades ago. You know, recently it was, oh, there's this pandemic coming, we're all gonna die. Like, I'm not stupid, but the way they were selling it when it first happened, it was like, okay, this could be bad. Call my parents. I'm like, look, don't go anywhere. We'll take care of groceries and drop them off and shit. Like, just stay home. We're not sure what's going on just yet. And kind of took a preventative approach to it until you were like, okay, well, where are the bodies? And you know, what's going on here, right? Like they keep stripping away all these freedoms.
I work in healthcare, and I to this day I still see people driving around by themselves in their car, and I think
with a mask on,
with a mask on, and I think, well, if the pandemic were real, wouldn't we be seeing biohazard containers for used masks? Or we'd be getting
people just throw them on the street now.
Yeah, these are
the same people that vote for liberalism and not having domestic fuel and oil production that will wear masks, take 17 jabs, and then throw their mask on the floor.
Right, and think nothing of it. But they're totally fine walking to the grocery store, touching their cart and everything else in the store, and then, you know, wiping their nose, cross-contaminating themselves. There's no, it just doesn't add up. And it's the other thing that I've noticed is a lot of your talks on your YouTube channel. I mean, it's about the female aspect, and you know, not only are men being crushed, but women as well. I mean, where are their minds? They've been trained with this Western.
Well, they've been indoctrinated to no longer seek a male. They've been told to think for themselves. They've been put into the workforce. They've been paying their taxes. They've been told they need a man like a fish needs a bicycle.
Right.
And now, you know, we see that really affecting society. Like, one of the isms that happens to be a problem is the whole feminism, you know, movement, which is not about equality. It's about female dominance and superiority now. Right. And there's a lot of fallout that's come at the result of all of that. It's been interesting, right?
Well, it kind of echoes what happened with the welfare state down here in the States. You know, we introduced welfare.
You want to hear a welfare state story? You should move to Canada and see what goes on over here, dude.
Well, I mean, we don't need dads anymore down here. You know, it's
they're not needed anywhere in the West anymore. It's, you know, you can go have your kids. You can have a guy knock you up and you'll be financially taken care of either by him or the state or a combination of both.
Exactly.
And even if you don't want to have a man do it the conventional way, you can just go to a clinic and they'll just push a button and bam.
Yeah. And I guess at the end of the day, it's all a perfect storm. I mean, society's been conditioned for the last at least 30 to 50 years just to do whatever they want, and government's going to take care of you.
Bingo. I got a lot of people waiting to hop in here, and there's someone here that disagrees with me
that
I want to pull in, so I'll let you go for now. Thanks, bud.
See you.
Okay.
Bye.
Guys, turn on your cameras, okay? Let me see here. Escape the Great Reset. Where's the disagree guy? Younger generation, cheetah. Okay, private chat. There it is. Oh, here, we got a guy that disagrees. He's got his camera off, though, but I'm going to bring him in anyway. Let's see what he's got. Okay, Alex, what do you disagree with?
Hey, Rich, how are you, man?
Good, man. How you doing?
Okay, I've kind of two disagreements on this. It's kind of a country's only as strong as its people. Mm-hmm. So why would a country want to get its people sick? You know, like, why would it kind of, you're kind of making it seem like the vaccine gets people, it's not beneficial, but why would the U.S. push it so much? Mm. If all of its people get sick, it's going to go down the drain. Well, you know what I mean?
Okay. Well, if you connect the dots and like ask that question again, like follow the chain and find out where the money is, and where is the money when it comes to vaccination, right? Like this was talked about by McCullough and Malone. Did you see those interviews with Joe Rogan?
I haven't seen those specifically.
So you're not informed, so you don't know what you're talking about. So let me educate you. So the U.S. government, and I'm sure the Canadian government, played a role in this too, and a few of the other, world governments, basically funded the research and development of the jab, then mandated that the population had to take it, right? Do you not see the vile connection between what's all going on there?
No, I can agree with that sentiment, but like when you boil it down, like I said again, a country's only as good as its people. So if all its people are sick, then it doesn't matter how the country's going to go down. So, and I also think the vaccines are getting somewhat enforced because not so much. You're right about the 99%. Like if 99% of people get it, most of them will survive.
Mhm.
The problem is that like if you remember at the beginning of this whole thing, people were filling up hospitals, and so people with
Were they though?
especially like,
Were they filling up hospitals? Because I went to the hospital twice in the last 2 years, early on with the pandemic, and I didn't see people in the hospitals. I didn't see hospital beds lined up. I didn't see rooms overflowing. I didn't see any of that. In fact, the parking lot was empty.
Well, I live like in a very densely populated city. It's like a major city in the West, and my grandma actually got COVID, and we had to wait like 2 hours in the waiting room, and then and so I feel like
waiting
it's
time
like
for medical services.
Yeah, I feel like it's a geographical thing. Like if you live probably in a place where there's probably 1,000 people or a couple thousand, it's not that bad. But if you live in a city where there's like 1 million people, or a couple million, you're kind of tossing the dice there. But like I said, I think at the end of the day, it's like I don't think it's beneficial for a country for its citizens to get sick. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So when you say that you don't think that it's beneficial, you're absolutely right. But you have to realize, what does the state want? What do they want to do? They want to grow bigger. They want more control, and they want more centralization. So how do you do that? You scare the shit out of people to make them believe bad stuff's going to happen if they don't follow what the state says, that drives them bigger, fatter, stronger, and gives them more control and authority over you. You see the connection there?
I see it, but I think that's not sustainable. I don't think that's that model that you're speaking of. I don't think.
Oh, you're right. It's not sustainable. I mean, which is why we see truckers, in Canada doing what they've done. And from what I understand, it's happening in the US too as well, even though you guys don't really have much in the way of restrictions. So it's a good thing that people are pushing back. It's a good thing that people are questioning the narrative, but there's still a large chunk of the population. In fact, I'd probably argue the majority of it that still thinks that measures were taken appropriately, and that, like there's still people that basically protest the protesters, and it's like, lock me down harder, daddy. Like, make me wear 3 masks instead of 1 or 2.
Yeah, that's, I don't know, this whole great reset. I think it's, I think it's a minority. I don't think it's going to happen. In my opinion, I feel like
they're trying to make it happen. Like, would you agree that the elites are trying to make that happen?
I believe that they are, but I think that most big countries like China or the U.S. or I don't think Russia so much. I don't think their GDP is that great compared to like major like powers.
Yeah.
I think the U.S. it's too big to fail. Like when people say it's going to go under, the U.S., China, these countries, if they fail, the whole world is like kind of fucked.
Ray Dalio has a book called Principles. You don't have to read it. There's a 45-minute long video on his YouTube channel that was released in the last 2 weeks that talks about the cycles throughout history with like the British Empire, the Dutch Empire, the French, and now the American. The American rule and influence, and even the American currency, has been questioned as recently as this week. For the petrodollar, I think Saudi Arabia announced that they were considering using the Chinese currency.
Oh yeah, if that happens, then that's going to really mess things up.
It's not that if it happens, it's happening. Right? Like the US is losing grip and control, and the people that are running the US, I don't think that they're fully subscribed with the World Economic Forum the way that guys like Justin Trudeau and Macron and Boris Johnson and the Australian Prime Minister, I don't know his name. Like, I don't think that that they've drinking the Kool-Aid or as drunk as guys like Trudeau is, but they're heading in that direction. Like, again, Biden is the guy that is the president of the United States, but the motor is running and nobody is clearly behind the wheel. So who is taking care of that? I don't know. There's mention of BlackRock, there's mention of other elites, there's factions in different, parties in the political system. All I know is it's not me. And I don't like that they're basically doing things that are taking away our freedom, our ability to maneuver, and they're monitoring more and more of our stuff.
I get your sentiment, but like I said, again, I think that in the future, I think your best bet would be still invest in like U.S. companies. If you want to keep your money safe, invest in Apple or Microsoft, because I don't think decentralization is ever going to happen. I think the U.S. is like currency is still going to be king, just for the fact that I don't think the U.S. is going to let that happen.
Well, historically, currencies come and go, and the U.S. dollar will go. I can promise you that.
You think so?
Absolutely.
I think the U.S. is too huge. Like,
no, it's not. It's not sustainable. That like you can't keep printing something and giving it away and throw it into the economy, and bad things are not going to happen. I would definitely encourage you to watch that video with Ray Dalio
I'll
that
definitely, I'll watch
he
it.
has
I'll
on his
definitely watch
channel.
that.
And I think it's a summary of his book Principles, if I'm not mistaken. It's a 45-minute video, and I encourage all of you guys to check it out after this. It's definitely worth a watch, because it certainly explains what's going on in the background with the code. And like, I appreciate that, you know, that you want to come on and disagree, but I mean, you're not coming from an informed position, right? Like, you're not educated on the matter in such a way that it's worth like a deeper dive or a debate.
Yeah,
See what I'm saying, Alex?
I've seen interviews with Ray Dalio. Like, he does share your sentiment, but he doesn't. He thinks China is going to eventually become like equal to the U.S. But I've never heard him say specifically.
Oh, it's already heading there.
Yeah, it's a trajectory. It's like getting there, but it's still.
I don't know
like
if it's going to be China.
away.
It's likely going to be a combination of China, Russia, India, and anybody else that participates in that faction, right? Because they're not part of NATO.
I don't think Russia has. If you look at its GDP, it might be big in the map, but what it contributes to like the world economy, it's not that big. It's has
small. It's about the same size as Spain.
Exactly. So what I measure it is on GDP. That's why I go by like the U.S. or like China. That's why I don't really count Russia as like as a major power. They just have nuclear weapons. But thanks,
Alex. Thanks, man. See you. Bye. All right. Let me get to a couple more of these here before we wrap up. So political solution. Matt will never get it. Rich, can we talk solutions? All right. Where's Oz? Oz wants to talk solutions. All right. Oz, solutions. Let's go.
Rich, how are you, my friend?
What's up, buddy?
I'm in Costa Rica right now, trying to, minimize impacts of Great Reset.
I have 3 guys in my community that live there. They moved there in the last couple of years for the named benefits that you're fully aware of.
Okay, yeah, fantastic. So I started my search by going to Hawaii, Mexico, most recently from Brazil, and I have two young boys, and I'm really trying to, find a spot where I can raise them and have decentralized food, number one. And I don't know. This is where I am right now.
Okay. So do you agree? Do you disagree what I talked about? Like, what's your solution? Because you mentioned something about talking solutions in the private chat.
I mean, my solution is removing myself from a tyrannical government. I almost, put the kibosh on coming back to Costa Rica because they are trying to vaccinate, children under 5. Since done away with it. But, to me, the solution is kind of what you already touched on, is being more self-reliant. And part of the reason why I'm here is because everybody grows their own food. It's also a spot where if things do go to shit, people in the US, people in Canada are accustomed to having everything copacetic 100% of the time. So if the power goes out there, they're going to respond differently than, if the power goes out here, for example.
And as far as decentralized currency, because I'm assuming that there's that known benefit in where you're at right now, like, you see a case for that in the future, especially with, like, the last caller wanted to argue that the US is too big to fail, the US dollar will still be dominant, blah, blah, blah. But I don't see that. I see the US failing. I see the US dollar not real. Like, the only reason why a $20 bill is worth $20 is because everybody agrees right now that it's worth $20. So they exchange that value for it. But the value that it holds is diminishing rapidly over time. And they're moving towards central bank digital currencies, which offer them full monitoring of all transactions via the blockchain, right?
Yeah, I hold crypto, I hold gold. Part of the reason why I'm here is I purchased to have an international diversification of my funds and resources. But, if you're a fan of Brent Johnson and the dollar milkshake theory, then, there's going to be a valuation spike in the dollar and ultimately, led by a collapse. And so every fiat currency in the world goes to zero, and you have to take steps necessary in order to protect yourself from that. When is that going to happen? Who knows, but it's inevitable, right?
Yeah, I see it coming too. Absolutely. All right, man. Thanks for chiming in, bud. That's it. All right. Let it burn. Somebody in the private chat's like, let it burn, boys. Lucas says, "Hey, Rich, nothing really asked. Just want to thanks for all your stuff. Cheers from Brazil. What's up, Brazil? What is up?" Yeah, guys, if you like my live shows, they're also in podcast form on all the platforms now, so you can consume them over there. And if you're a fan of the work, grab the book, grab the Unplugged Alpha. I'm going to be talking about unplugging in many more ways in my follow-up book, which will be out in the next year or so. But yeah, just pay attention, man. Pay attention to what's going on. All right. What do we got here in the chat? Write it out. Let it burn. Let it burn, crowd. Let them burn. All right. Let's see what Matt's got for us here. I'll bring Matt in. Here we go. All right, buddy. What do you got for me today?
Hey, what's going on? I watch your content from time to time here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I was more so wondering how you were speaking on cryptocurrencies and seeing that Bitcoin's a public ledger. Like, what's the best way to kind of go around that? Because like you have firms specializing in like Bitcoin forensics.
Around it in what sense? Like what's the goal?
Like, to be a true libertarian, like, do you not necessarily want everybody looking at your transaction log? Like you said, going to the bank, and I share the same thing.
Yeah,
I go to the bank, a million questions. You don't really want somebody seeing your transaction history, right?
So what are your options with privacy coins? Monero.
Monero's a big one right now.
Zcash, I think, is another one.
Do you see like a prominent player like being a pivot from Bitcoin?
Well, I mean, the problem with something like Monero versus Bitcoin is it's not a good store of value like Bitcoin is, right? Like when I first, took a serious look at and then plunged into cryptocurrency, and I think it was 2017, if I'm being honest. First came across it in 2012, 2013, and I told my friend he was fucking crazy. I'm like, you're stupid doing this, and he's now set for life. Yeah, like the value I've seen when I got in around 3,600, I think it's, what is it today? 41,000. Monero hasn't moved anywhere close to that. So, I mean, the trade-off is going to be, if you want full privacy, then yes, get Monero. But if you're okay with, people knowing that you've got X amount of Bitcoin on a certain wallet, they don't, whatever, who cares, right? I mean, like, you're better off in that position, I think, than keeping it all in Monero or gold bars or silver bars. I mean, sure, you could store value in gold as well. And that's something that, you want full custody of. And by the way, guys, I mean, if you're going to participate on the blockchain, you want custody of your cryptocurrency. Don't be fooled putting your crypto in somebody else's hands. Let me just share. Well, I'll finish talking to Matt and then I'll share the story, but you see what I'm saying here, Matt, though, right?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like, the Bitcoin's more of like a value asset, like similar to gold. Obviously, it's more of like you can divide it more. But what I'm saying is more so for like utility. Let's say you want to buy like a large asset and not have that purchase be known. Like, what if those privacy coins be like a better?
I'm sure there's ways to do it. I'm not participating in any kind of economy where it's like, I think I want to get a black market MiG-29 that I can, park in my hangar sort of thing. I'm not that guy, but if I was that guy, I don't know. I'm sure there's a way to do it. I mean, if you really wanted to move money around and the state not knowing about it, I'm sure there's ways to do it, right?
Okay, all that's all the questions I had. Thank
you. Thanks, Matt. So to the point of decentralization, like, don't make the mistake that you participate in the decentralized cryptocurrency market and you buy something like Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever. Don't make the mistake of leaving it all on a centralized exchange. I recently made that mistake. I generally leave just a small percentage of my holdings earning interest. And then your bag should be kept off the blockchain in your own custody in a cold storage wallet. Don't leave too much on the blockchain, because the governments around the world, the regulators and the policymakers, want to know exactly everything they possibly can with you. So if you make a deposit that's large enough on a centralized exchange and they want to know this, that, and the other thing about where the money came from, what was the source of the income, give us screenshots, they literally freeze your asset. You cannot get it back unless you provide the information. Now, I have contacts and know-how on how to maneuver this, but as a warning, do not leave your bag on centralized exchanges or anywhere that's not within your custody. It defeats the purpose of a decentralized currency. You want to make sure that you have it in your own custody. Don't make that mistake. The line in the sand keeps getting lower and lower. So while you might think like, well, I've only got $5,000 or $10,000 out there staked earning interest, they're not going to bother me. They will bother you, right? They're continuously lowering the line in the sand where they go looking for information on the source of the crypto, where it came from, what it was bought with, show me that you own the account, and blah, 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 and all that sort of stuff. Be very, very careful with that. Let me get some of these super chats here. Don says, one of the reasons I look up to, one of the persons I look up to is Doug Casey. Said Yuval Harari actually being a poster boy for Klaus. The goal of communism 3.0 will fail. I think it probably will fail because large countries like China, India, Russia are not going to participate in Klaus's bullshit. But there is still an argument for it being a potential problem. I mean, dude wrote a book. I think it was July of 2020, if I'm not mistaken. You know, within a year of the pandemic being released, and he basically gave you the cheat codes. He gave everybody the playbook to the crazy shit that they're doing. Anyway. Vake says Bitcoin wallets like Samurai Wallet will let you coin join, mix funds, thereby adding privacy to your transaction. There you go. Like I said, you know, if there's a will, there's a way. Like you want to hide transactions, I'm sure you can find a way to do it. There's lots of tools and resources out there for people that want privacy. You're just going to have to structure your life in such a way. Like just, you know, for all you guys out there, they're like, I don't know where to start. Where do I start? You know, I just do what they're told, you know, what they've been telling me to do. I just feel like, you know, they're not going to lead me astray or do anything wrong or do anything to ruin the currency. You guys are sleepwalking. You guys already know that you're sleepwalking. You just don't know where to begin. And I'm telling you where to begin. Begin by participating in decentralization as often as you can and start with cryptocurrency. There's absolutely no reason to hold cash today. None. It's has no freaking value. Like pretty soon in the future, it's not going to be worth the paper it's written on to wipe your ass. Toilet paper will have higher value. I mean, we saw what happened when the pandemic hit. The first thing the retards did was they went out and they got all the toilet paper they could possibly get their hands on. Western currency is not valuable, and because of inflation being around whatever the hell it happens to be right now in the high single digits, low double digits even, you know, depending on how you want to argue that number, you're eroding your wealth every day, not participating in decentralized currency like Bitcoin, for example. You store your money in Bitcoin, over time it goes up. There's only 21 million of them. They can never print more. It's permissionless. You don't need anybody's permission to move your money or to send it to anybody. Okay, it's decentralized. It solves almost all of the problems that exist today. It is a very good store of value. So consider it, honestly. They want us poor and desperate. Where is that? They want us poor and desperate to fight and die for their wars and advance their agenda. Yeah, it's sad, man. There's a lot of young men today that are now 6 feet under as a result of we're going to smoke them out of their caves or go get the weapons of mass destruction or whatever the fucking narrative was that, you know, killed these young men. It's unfortunate. But I mean, like the best part is when you see the media, it's like, you know, like right now, I think I've got it here still on my Twitter feed. Let me see if I can find it. I'll show it to you because it's relevant to this. It's always, you know, take the attention away from anything that doesn't serve a female first primary social order or an ism. Where is it here? Bum, bum, bum. There it is, like clockwork. Share on the screen. They want us poor. Share screen. Window. There it is. Let me pull that off the screen. So I'm just going to zoom this in a bit. So like clockwork, men get slaughtered in war, women most affected. Ah, shit. I got to scroll down back to it. There it is. This International Women's Day, my thoughts are with all the Ukrainians, especially the women and girls affected by Russia's horrific war. This is the president of the European Central Bank, by the way, Christine Lagarde. We have been given a stark reminder that women and girls also suffer from armed conflicts. Hundreds of thousands of women and children are currently fleeing the violence. Women have had to give birth in bunkers as shells rain down from above. And even when war ends, they are often left alone to sustain their livelihoods and become the backbone of their communities. This is why, I don't know what the hell IWD 2020 is not about celebrating our achievements. It's about protecting these incredibly brave women and ensuring their safety at this harrowing time. Stand with Ukraine. So men and boys die at the hands of the Russians. Or, I mean, they're killing each other, arguably, of course. It's not just, the Russians that are killing Ukrainians. They're killing each other. So men and boys die at the hands of each other, women most affected. You see how the pacification of the West continues, fellas, right? They want you outraged over some of the silliest things these days. Reckless Gaming, not sure if you've covered it, but what are your thoughts of the QR tech being used to implement the Chinese social credit system here in Canada? Yeah, I talked about it earlier on. It's the social credit system currently exists. It's already here. It's just how much of it is going to be rolled out in North America, right? I mean, okay, if you want the best example of this, it's cancel culture. They literally canceled the president of the United States off of all social media. That's a credit system. They don't like what you say. They take things away from you. Oh, you can no longer publish on our platform. Again, it's already here. It's to what extent will the population allow it to be implemented, and what freedoms are they willing to exchange under the guise of privacy and safety and protection and all that sort of stuff, or what's good for the economy and the baby polar bears and seals and all that sort of stuff. And they need an enemy, right? The COVID enemy didn't really work out. I don't know. Is Russia now the new enemy? Is the Russian hackers going to be the new enemy? Is China going to be the new enemy? I don't know. We'll see what happens. Jay Rizzo, Rich is spitting fire, hot days as always. Great content as usual. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. I'm glad you guys are enjoying this. Do me a solid and hit the like button. Again, that just helps with the algorithms. Just let the YouTubes know that you're enjoying participating and watching. Let's see who we got here in the chat. Got Oliver. I got a question regarding the book. All right, Oliver, what's your question, buddy?
Hi, can you hear me good?
Yeah. Is this regarding the Great Reset book, or is this regarding my book?
Your book.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in high school. I like what you've presented in the book, and it's changed my life. I've utilized it ever since I found you. I've just changed generally my outlook on things and how I interact with people. But also in high school, it feels like it's hard to implement what you talk about with, especially in regard to interacting with females. It seems like Northern California.
Okay. Well, I mean, you live in a shit state for schooling.
Yeah. It's a half the week school. So half the time we're actually at school. The other half the time we're at home doing work. So it's also fairly difficult to even find time to interact with anybody during the week. It feels like it would almost be easy because these are sort of more immature, younger girls. Easy to implement what you talk about, but also it feels like there's so little time to really interact with anybody. It's hard to really develop these skills, these social skills generally, get a sense of even just how to talk with girls.
Okay, is this a girl's question, or is it just tied into the topic of the Great Reset and Klaus Schwab?
This was regarding the book, because you mentioned the book earlier. I do have a commentary.
So you have a question about the Great Reset?
I do
commentary on it.
Commentary on something I'd like to add about solution to it.
Go ahead. Because I want to deal with the book stuff, like my book on the Unplugged Alpha show on Monday nights. Like the show was specifically built around the Great Reset and Klaus Schwab. So let's talk about that.
All right. And I like I said in the private chat, there's obviously no political solution to what's happening. We can't vote our way out of this.
Well, you can vote for smaller government that gives you more freedom, but people don't want that. They vote for bigger government that takes away your freedom. So in a sense, yeah, you're right, because that's what the voting patterns lead towards, right? That's why you see like a lot of these doom and gloom guys that are like, repeal the 19th, take away women's, votes, because that'll change, the way people vote. Let's only let people that own property vote. Like you hear those arguments, and okay, the voting patterns were different back then, but it's not back then anymore. Like how exactly do you propose to take away women's right to vote, right? Like I've never heard a reasonable way to make that pan out in the favor of society. It's just silly.
Wouldn't happen in our modern society, of course.
Never.
I think the only genuine solution in our current state would be a large-scale revolt, to say, but that we have such an unorganized. Yeah, when we have such an unorganized right wing, though, it's just not plausible. And so
I've heard the Civil War argument a few times by different people, and I don't know, it might come to something like that in the future. But that would create a lot of havoc, a lot of loss of life, right? Yeah.
And I just don't think it's plausible with the current state of these sort of feminized right wing that we have nowadays. Generally unorganized, like most guys are smoking weed and like just.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by the right wing, but I mean the people that I see broadcasting to large audiences, like the PragerU and like the Friends of all that sort of stuff. They advocate for families, for conservatism, all that sort of stuff. But dude, you're not solving any problems, right? Because you're not unplugging people. You're still they're still brainwashed. They're just brainwashed on a different flavor of Kool-Aid, right? Like they're not thinking for themselves completely. If you know what I'm saying. I mean, it's still a better policy than what we're dealing with right now, but it's just another. It's like, hey, it's shit, but do you like diarrhea or constipation better? It doesn't matter. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's arguably, obviously, better concepts, better ideas than what's currently implemented, but it plays into the society that we're already in. It just perpetuates the current state of the world. I think the only real solution out of the large-scale Great Reset is, as you've talked about, individual reliability. Because, if there's just one more person who doesn't rely on the food system, doesn't rely on the centralized currency, is able to defend themselves, and that's just one person that's not going to be controlled. If there's 100 people that a message like that gets out to, then that's 100 people that aren't going to be controlled. So, that's basically my commentary on it. It's just individual reliability is the only real solution.
That's what I was talking about, individuals.
Only plausible solution.
All right, man, thanks. All right. I got a guy here that has a solution. He says, I have a solution, but it's not pretty. His name is Mac. So let's hear the solution. All right, what do we got, buddy? Hello, Mac. Dude says he has a solution. It's not pretty, but he can't voice his solution. Interesting. Oh, hang on. He wrote something here in a private chat. Just like anything in life, you can't make the old young again. You have to let the old go and give birth to new agile. So enjoy the decline. Don't let them use you like they do now. Family, law, economy. Let the system fail, and we will build a new, better one from the ashes. I welcome the comet. I welcome the meteor, the comet, whatever happens, to be out there in space that might create an opportunity for something like that. But again, it's like big change, a big pivot in the way society potentially operates is going to come at the cost of some pretty tremendous havoc, right? A solution. Oh, hang on. We got a guy named Xander that says he lives in China. What's the best way to impact people out of this BS? Dude, you're in China?
Yeah, man. What's up, Rich?
Are you going to get in trouble talking to me right now? Is Xi Jinping going to come to your door and
as long as they don't find me out, man. I'm using a VPN now currently, so it's untraceable for now.
Where are you from? South Africa?
Yeah. How do you know?
Right. I know accents. I do accents well. All right. So what do you got for me today?
Well, man, all this bullshit going around in China with the QR codes and stuff. Like, I just really want to help the people to, get out of this brainwashing, man. Like, honestly, everybody believes everything the CCP shares with them, and they don't think for themselves. Like it's like you're talking to sheep, and I mean it's ridiculous.
What's it like
man.
in China? Like, are people literally sheep following what the states tells them to do and say, or are there people that like, all right, fuck these guys, I know what they're doing, but I'm going to do my own thing anyway underneath here?
Man, they don't care about the truth. Everyone just cares about loyalty. Like if the CCP says, hey guys, unicorns exists, America is bad, they created the coronavirus, man, everybody falls for it like sweet cakes.
Really?
They don't believe shit. And they're cut off from the rest of the world. Like they only hear one side of the story the whole time.
How did you manage to get a VPN in China when the Chinese can't typically get outside info?
Well, there are websites you can use on the Chinese media to download a VPN, but at least I was fortunate enough to get a VPN on my way to China.
Do you think that China's going to participate in Klaus Schwab's World Economic Forum and what he's trying to do? Because at Davos, they actually had Xi Jinping as like, they introduced him as like the great emperor of China or some shit like that. I can't remember what the introduction was, but they had this big roll up to it. And then he gave a speech, as it would contribute to the agenda of the World Economic Forum. But I don't think that it's a part of the world that's going to comply with what the outsiders say. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, all I know for a fact is like China loves power, man. Like the more power they can have, the better. The less free will people can have, the better. Even the Chinese here currently as well. Like
that they're deceptive as fuck. I mean, that's for
sure. You're telling me about it, man. Like you can't even go out in public and just share the truth, without getting arrested. If you say anything against the CCP, you know what? They come knocking on your door and they take you out of here, man. But man, thanks for everything you've done, man. Like you're so totally inspiring, man. Keep up.
Yeah, you better move out of that flat that you're in right now, because it might be knocking on your door tomorrow. All right, buddy. Let's see it. Oh man. Let's see what we got here. Man, we're killing it. 2 hours. I got to wrap this up soon. Let's see if what else we got in the private chat. I'm a security professional. What do you think about protection professionals can do against this BS? Would love to discuss. All right, let's see what Robin's got. Robin is a security professional. Robin.
Good evening, Rich. Thank you very much for your time and your efforts on this channel. Been a great effort and help to me.
Okay. So what do you got for me here? It says here that you're a security professional, and what do you think that protection professionals can do against this BS? Where do you live first?
Yeah, I live in the Netherlands currently.
Okay, so you're Dutch, and you're in security. Like, what do you do?
I do events, artist protection. I do VIP protection. Currently at work right now doing company first aid assistance.
Are you former military?
No, not former military. Do have some basic military schooling, but haven't did military service yet.
Do you carry a firearm when you're doing these protection details?
No, I can't carry a firearm. It's just unarmed security here in Netherlands. Laws just state that we can't do any of that.
So if push comes to shove, like what do? Do you have a nightstick? Do you have a zapper? Do you have non-lethal?
I have a very big mouth.
You have a big mouth. That's it.
Big mouth and Krav Maga and some just hand combat experience.
Okay, well that's a bit of a problem, right? I mean, like you don't have the ability aside from hand-to-hand sort of work to do much beyond that. So what's the question here? Like I already provided some solutions earlier. So did you have any questions about those solutions, or do you want to talk about them a little deeper? I
want to talk a little bit deeper specifically because I'm currently in the process of writing a book about this very topic on what security professionals specifically can do to get rid of tyranny in these matters. Because I'm noticing that a lot of what you were mentioning, a lot of the people that are fighters are trying to combat this in some of way. And I was curious to your specific ideas, what security professionals in depth can do about it, because we are initially on the front lines, like dealing and specifically arresting people. If I look at Australia in general, not just security, but protection professionals.
But I mean, you don't
what
have
we can
much
do to stop it.
authority with what they've given you aside from words and some basic hand-to-hand combat skills if somebody tries to come at you with a knife or something, right?
Yeah, indeed.
So
But
how
like,
the hell do you have any influence? I mean, you know, with those tools in your toolbox.
Yeah, I just look at from just a protection professional perspective in general. So like also from police and military perspective as a whole.
Yeah, you're not going to make a difference, you know, by yourself or with your security team or with like every security professional that lives in the Netherlands. You're not going to make a difference. I mean, they've got the military. They've got a lot more firepower than you do. So it's not like you have much in the way of options. It's I think follow again, you know, the guidance that I've given earlier, you know, participate in the decentralized economy, you know, acquire Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, see if you can find a way to source your own energy, water, and food. Like those would be the main ones, right? Voting for policies that shrink the government and give people more freedom and control, encourage others to do the same. But aside from that, there's not much else that you can do. I mean, you're a cog in a wheel.
Yeah, so I basically try to push it amongst the security professionals and protection professionals in general. So
it's a
that
losing
we
battle.
try to stop it.
Like if we're being honest, like it's a losing battle trying to save the West, right? Like a lot of people are like, well, how do we save the West? And why do you encourage people to do this, that, and everything? It's like, as a lot of people have already pointed out in the public and the private chat, it's like, let it burn, enjoy the decline, take care of yourself. Like again, Jack Donovan's book, the Way of Men. The Way of Man is essentially the way of the gang. You know, you form a tribe of men. You know, you have your loved ones on the inside. You draw a perimeter around that, and it's us versus them when the shit hits the fan, sort of thing. So develop yourself in such a way that you have a team of other people that you can rely upon, right? But again, they're trying to pussify the West. They're trying to feed them, you know, with soy. They're trying to get them all soft and agreeable and more progressive and inclusive and all that sort of shit. So that's just going to keep coming. So, you know, you have to kind of like deal with that battle as best as you can. But the most important thing is take control of your life. You know, take control of your finances, take control of your information, take control of, you know, your food, your energy, your water sources. Those are the things that are really going to save yourself, because you're not going to save the West.
Got it. Thank you for your time, Rich.
All right, man. Man, oh man. All right, let's see what we got in the private chat here. Let's do one more. We'll do one more. Feline happened, don't be a victim. Donating 53% of your income as a high value male, security professional, poverty. A solution, but it's not pretty. Live in China. See who we got here. All right. Andrew looks interesting. Let's see what Andrew's got for us. Okay, buddy.
Let's see. Good to meet you, Rich. I've been following your content now for about about a year or so now.
All right. Talk to me. What do you got for me right now on the topic?
What is it? It's more so on a networking standpoint, networking with other people, in that throughout the decline, I noticed that with a lot of people that I talk to, it's hard to find those that have an actual a gem of advice. Inside YouTube, it's kind of easy to kind of navigate between different content creators. Typically you find one or two good people. For instance, kind of like with you, I found Andrew Tate and kind of move around between all of the Jay Wallen and start kind of moving around in between everybody. But inside real life, when you're building those business, inside business relationships, that type of thing, how is it, I guess, I don't know the right way to phrase it. If you're able to find that inside of typically you can find one or two gems, and typically it's easy to read whether or not somebody's worth a damn. But then how far is it that you judge how to take that relationship, I guess is the right way to say it. Do you understand what I mean? Or
yeah, I think I understand. So how old are you?
I'm 25.
Where do you live?
I live inside Memphis, Tennessee.
And what do you do for a living?
Right now I'm low voltage. Just took myself freelance, trying to actually make a better life for myself, put my money where my mouth is.
What do you mean by low voltage? Are you an electrician or?
Not necessarily. So point of sale systems, CCTV. Let's see what else is there. Speakers, drive-through systems, all of
Okay,
that
so
type
you're
of
saying,
thing.
I got you. Okay, so your question really is, I mean, it sounds like you're looking for ways to network with higher value guys and form like a brotherhood, a tribe, something that you can lean on.
Yes, inside, because there's a joke inside construction that a lot of people inside this industry take, is that if you're new to the industry, if you don't have a baby mama or 2 or 3, or you're not addicted to heroin or alcohol, whatever it is, then you're not going to last long. So, because a lot of people just depend on that paycheck. So it's hard to find that that's not inside middle management, or it's hard to find that people that are not in middle management, or or just trying to live paycheck to paycheck.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, that's a good question. I'm going to pull you out, and that'll get me to the conclusion, the stuff that I wanted to close on. Thanks for that, Andrew. I appreciate it. So to answer his question, and actually before I do, let me just get these super chats real quick. Vintran, I'm confused by the currency space. If anyone in the money chain can't pay renters to landlords to banks, it causes nasty chain reaction. Why are policy people doing this seemingly intentionally? That's a multifaceted sort of thing. I mean, again, currency doesn't have much value today. Okay. US dollars, US fiat currency is less and less interesting to the world. Again, we talked earlier, Saudi Arabia is already talking to China about using the Chinese currency as its reserve for buying fuel. The money chain is changing. I mean, like the M1 money supply was printed off in double, like in the last, like 8 or 10 months or something it was. You look, you can look it up. It's like, it's like, this is the money supply. Sorry, I got to look at the camera. This is like the money supply, and it's like going up, and it's like COVID-19 hits. It's like, and it like doubled, like the entire history of money being printed doubled like over the course of 10 months or something like that. You're going to run into problems, right? It shouldn't confuse you. In fact, if you've got any confusion when it comes to monetary policy, inflation, the economy, economics, I'd say follow my friend George Gammon. I mean, he's got really good information. He talks about this stuff routinely. Turn off all the bullshit and the red meat and all the nonsense you see on YouTube, and only consume content that offers you solutions. Okay, I'll start there. So to Andrew's point about the network, and he's a 25-year-old guy, and he's dealing with low voltage stuff, and he lives in a part of the world, and he's looking for more. I get it. Totally natural. Men have been designed to compete. It's why we're more disagreeable. It's why we have higher testosterone. It's why we work longer hours and drive further and take on riskier jobs and all those sorts of things. It's often said, men compete, women choose, right? Like that's how relationships happen. Essentially, men are doing the work and women choose. But anyway, to the point of what Andrew's making about a brotherhood and networking and getting yourself in that environment. I've said this before and I'll say it again. If you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. If you find yourself in an environment where you're sitting with a bunch of people that are energy vampires and you feel exhausted by the end of it, they don't hold you accountable. You can't rely on them if the shit hits the fan, if there's problems, they don't have your back. Get rid of them. Get out of the room. Move into another room. In some cases, you can buy your way into the room. He mentioned, communities. I've got my own private community. Where's my banner? I'll drop it up on the bottom here. And this is always pinned in the top comment too. I've got my own private community where people pay a fee to join. And by the way, if you pay with cryptocurrency, message me and I'll give you a lifetime discount paying with crypto. You can network with these guys for your entire life. We have local meetups. People meet up on their own accord. There's a private censorship-free forum that Facebook can't take down. Most of these private groups right now are run on social media platforms where they get censored or, whatever the case may be. So there's that to consider. Forming a tribe, Jack Donovan talked about this tribe that he formed when he bought this land. And, he talks about it in his books. If you want to find higher value guys, you're going to have to put yourselves in environments that are going to expose you to men like that are going to hold you accountable, that you can trust, that you can lean on. If they're not where you're at right now, again, you're in the wrong room. Again, one of the first questions I ask guys is like, I want to find some, better tribe of men. I want to find some greater guys to be around. I'm tired of being around losers. How do I find, guys that are unplugged instead of plugged in? I'm tired of these blue pill betas and da-da-da. It's like, okay, well, do you fight? Do you go to a dojo? Well, no. Well, why not? I've been talking about it. It's a chapter in my book, man. Like, why aren't you learning how to use your hands? Because that's where a lot of these guys are, right? They want to compete. You have to go to places where men are competing. That's where high T, successful guys are that don't, get duped by society's narratives. It's funny. Every time I'm at the dojo and I'm talking to the owner, and he's not the guy training me. I have a separate trainer. He's always telling me these stories, and we're always chopping up ideas about what's going on in the world, and the narratives and the big geopolitical ideas and stuff like that. Dude's unplugged as fuck. Put yourself in rooms where these guys are, and if you find that you're doing something or you're exposed to people that aren't, like if they're sitting around getting stoned playing video games all day with Dorito chest on their chin and on their shirt and stuff like that, with a stack of boxes of pizzas, beside their couch, you're in the wrong room. Leave that room. It's okay to leave people behind. It doesn't matter if you share DNA with them or you've known them since high school. Just lovingly let them go, and put yourself in a better environment. Brings me to the last point. If you guys aren't on my email list, you should be on it. I am going to release a course in the next couple of weeks that is going to teach you the mindset to entrepreneurship. A lot of the questions that came up today, guys are like, I work for this company and I'm kind of in this union, or I do this sort of thing, or I'm in this field, and how do I, the security guy, like how do I get, these other security guys? If you work in an environment where you have a job, which, by the way, JOB stands for just over broke for the vast majority of the people that have a job, because they just give you enough to skip by. Kevin O'Leary said, a salary is a drug that they give you to get you to forget about your dreams. I'm not quoting that exactly, but something along that lines. So if you want true freedom, one of the ways that you can accomplish that, your own sovereignty, your own ability to decentralize from the centralized control and the overlords, the elites, if you will, is to essentially become an entrepreneur. You have a lot more control over your life that way, when you work, how you work, what you're going to do. And there's different ways that you can structure it. And I've got I think there's 11 different modules in the course that I'm putting out. So if you're on my email list, you'll get early notification as far as when the course opens for sale, when it'll close. I'll give you guys an early bird special on the email list. And I'm going to train you to think in such a way that's going to facilitate exposing yourself to ideas and solving problems as an entrepreneur. I'm not giving you the ABCD, this is how you start up a business, or this is how you drop shit. That's not me. I'm not that guy. There's some other dipshit out there with a pre-roll ad or some other, social media ad standing beside a rented Lamborghini, telling you how he makes X amount of dollars drop shipping or some FBA sort of stuff with Amazon. That's not what this is about. This is about developing a mindset of having critical thinking and asking questions, rather than complying and nodding your head and doing everything that you've been told to do. And look, I was there too. I didn't grow up in a family or a household where my parents taught critical thinking. Both of my parents worked as employees. They were salary people, right? They had JOBs. We basically lived just over broke. It wasn't until my late 20s that I was like, this is fucking stupid. It's not working out. Clearly, there's other people that have, the solution to this problem. And I looked around and I started, finding ways to create my own business. So it's a mindset that you need to develop for yourself. I would never recommend anybody to buy some, hey, this is how you make some money. People build businesses that they hate that way. You need to actually develop a mindset that becomes critical and establishes ways for you to make money and get yourself independent from the government, the JOBs out there, and all that sort of stuff. So if that's of interest to you, get on my email list. I'll be releasing that again in the next couple of weeks. Those that are on my email list will probably get the early bird pricing on it. And then all the material will be delivered, and we'll have a private community for the participants to chop up ideas internally. All right. Man, I did 2 hours and 18 minutes. I don't normally broadcast for this long, but you guys seem to like this stuff. I thought it would be a good topic. It was highly, highly requested by a lot of people. I know that some of this answered some questions. Some of this made you think. if anything, all that I ask that after watching this, that you leave this saying to yourself, yeah, I need to be more critical. I need to ask questions. I need to not, just nod my head and comply with everything somebody, sends at me. I'll close on this last note. Whenever somebody tries to convince you of doing something, and this can be in business, this can be the government telling you to do something, they try to lecture you on why something needs to be done a certain way, ask yourself, how does this benefit them? How does me doing what they're compelling me to do benefit these people? What's in it for them? And if you think about that in those sorts of transactions where there's some new legislation, there's some new policy, if you're a student in school, if you're an employee in a company, if you're, I don't know, just somebody that fucking votes, for example, and they're telling you to do certain things, ask yourself, what does this person or what does this entity benefit from me complying with what it is that they're trying to do? Because I'll tell you right now, it's not about you. It's always about them. I'll leave it on that note. Smash the like button, leave a comment.